Chapter 663. After discussing the basic information about Miss Jane. Next was the information that Han Dong was more concerned about, information about the channels of torso supply. He believed that Miss Jane, as the prosecutor, was familiar with all levels of people in Dry Town. You need a torso with a large capacity? Is a corpse okay? It's best if it's still alive. Han Dong's words clearly indicated that he wanted the residents of Dry Town. You are now a resident of Dry Town. If you have malicious intentions and attack other residents, you will be punished by the law. But you can choose to attack some fugitives directly or retaliate against some residents who attack you on the grounds of legitimate self-defense, or attack people who try to rebel like Dean Richard. In short, Dry Town has a sound law similar to human society. Every law-abiding citizen is protected by the law. Han Dong naturally understood, and Miss Jane in front of him was the prosecutor in Dry Town who specialized in arresting bad guys. If the above conditions are met, does Miss Jane have any suitable personnel on the roster? If I can help you deal with some fugitives or potential dangers, it's killing two birds with one stone, isn't it? It will take some time. I also have a basic understanding of your body's information and abilities. Wait until the town hall thoroughly investigates the death of Dean Richard. You can come to me directly to get the information. Thank you, Miss Jane. The conversation ended there. While the town hall thoroughly investigated the hospital incident, it required those involved to stay in the household registration address. Jane didn't stay for long and drove the cart back to Dry Town alone. Han Dong, who sat alone in the church, stared at the full moon in the sky through the glass window. Phew, my luck is not bad. My friendly relationship with Jane also benefited from killing Dean Richard. Let's prepare for something big next. In the blink of an eye, a spatial energy enveloped Han Dong's body, and he disappeared directly from the church. When he returned to the familiar prison area, Han Dong first stood in the aisle and stared at the three people who were healing. The increase in the difficulty of true fate is immediately apparent. Even Nico can't keep up. Miss Chun Li can only deal with some small monsters in an incident of this level. Although Togu's potential is still there, it hasn't fully recovered. I have to do something. If there was no other way, he could just wait until the matter was over and use all his destiny points on them to forcefully raise their levels. However, for Togo, I'll try to find his former residence in Dry Town first. Maybe I can unlock the demon engine. Han Dong temporarily put the situation of the three aside and turned to the laboratory to focus on his own matters. A tube of cell essence, superior quality, extracted from Director Richard was placed in the center, and colors were slowly flowing within it. So these are the high-quality essences dropped by bosses in True Fate? The time has finally come. Han Dong carefully removed the syringe and went to where his main body was. Although he had been holding back the upgrade of his head for a long time and was obviously impatient, Han Dong's performance was very calm. As the syringe approached, the cell communities remaining in the super clean workbench immediately had a tendency reaction, as if they could not wait to eat. With a skillful injection method, he slowly pushed the essence into his body. Injecting cell essence quality, Han Dong carefully observed his main body, and once there was any abnormality, he would stop the injection. Who knew that the colors that could devour everything were still perfectly absorbed by his main body? For a moment, there was a flash of 5 colors among the cell communities, and then it returned to its original state. It was not affected by the color of stars at all. Han Dong said to the hidden AI system in the laboratory, "Prison expansion. Upgrade condition LV-2LV-31. Detected that the available weight value of the individual is greater than 150 points, 280,600. 2. Detected that the amount of cell essence quality is sufficient. 3. Individual physical condition, mental state, and energy saturation are greater than 80%. All 3 conditions are met, and Faceless Head LV-3 can be upgraded. Time. The estimated time required to upgrade is 10 to 14 hours. Success rate, 71%. Do you want to upgrade the head? Yes. Han Dong's answer was without any hesitation. In a flash, The appearance disguised as Warren Nicholas disappeared in an instant and turned into a bright braised egghead. Squeak, squeak, many slippery tentacles drilled out of his neck. The tentacles climbed up along the face and wrapped the entire head, like an egg that was being reborn. During this period, Han Dong fell into a blurred state, and his consciousness drifted into the distance. He still remembered the first time he upgraded the head. The situation was similar. At that time, Han Dong's consciousness drifted to a port town called Innsmouth and lived a strange life in the port as a fisherman. The memories were difficult to recall. It even made Han Dong suspect that the town, Innsmouth, really existed in the world. When the expedition came, maybe he could find out the situation. But this time, the upgrade was completely different from before. The dark and endless deep space of the universe. The bright and dazzling brilliance of the stars. On the Red Wasteland, there was a spaceship that was about to run out of available resources. Han Dong, who was already skinny from hunger, used the remaining oxygen to support his body. He wrote a last will, hoping that his companions on Mars in the future would find it and bring his research results back to Earth. Han Dong was completely immersed in his current identity as an astronaut, forgetting everything before his consciousness left his body. After completing the will, there were no more worries. Han Dong chose to put on a spacesuit, took out the last 2 potatoes and a bottle of purified drinking water, sat in the fully charged space off-road vehicle, and prepared to travel until he died. Very far. He traveled a distance he had never traveled before. He seemed to have come to the other side of Mars. The sky was no longer filled with stars, but strange bubbles, just like the colorful bubbles Han Dong often blew when he was a child. When his vision returned from the bubbles in the sky to the ground, a door appeared in front of him out of thin air, and the triangular symbol engraved on the door seemed familiar. His consciousness led him to get out of the car and slowly approach the door. There seemed to be endless whispers echoing in his ears, some strange sound from the other side of the universe. He opened the door. The interior was full of dotted, single-dimensional colors. But in Han Dong's view, these single-dimensional colors formed an obscure picture and high-dimensional space channel. He stepped into it. A second passed. Han Dong came out of it again. At this time, he was already gray-haired like a century-old man, and he died of old age before he could take 2 steps. Faceless Skull upgrade completed. Current level, LV. 3. Please select the upgraded space expansion project. Choose one of the 2-1. Add a cell for the prison area that can accommodate foreign objects. 2. Add an additional laboratory, void, for the experimental area. Han Dong was still immersed in the memories of his life as an astronaut. Through the door, he saw many high-dimensional things. Just a glance, and several years passed. When Han Dong slowly adapted and turned his head, he found that there was a black triangle mark that symbolized the void on the back wall of the laboratory. Sure enough, Dean Richards' essence will have an impact on the evolution of the brain. This trip to Mars is really comfortable. Chapter 664. The improvement brought by the upgrade of the skull was greater than Han Dong expected. He supported the table with one hand. There were even tentacles that drilled in and out of Han Dong's 7 orifices. There were also some void colors flashing in his pupils. As an astronaut, Han Dong only peeked behind the door 3 times before reaching the end of his lifespan and was forced out. However, just 3 glances allowed Han Dong to gain indescribable knowledge of the void. He had to choose between prison and laboratory. Han Dong decisively chose the latter under the premise of peeking at the knowledge of the void. Please add an additional laboratory. The choice has been made. The result cannot be changed. Laboratory, void, is being built. It will take about 9 hours and 34 minutes. Han Dong didn't care about the time. Because he spent his life in a strange world as an astronaut, he also needed a full day of rest. A deep, dreamless sleep. Beep, beep, beep. The expansion of the experimental area has been completed. When Han Dong woke up, he found himself lying on a foldable bed. He clearly remembered that he fell asleep on the table. It seemed to be the foldable bed that the laboratory's AI system prepared for Han Dong. Currently, on an empty wall in the biological laboratory, a black triangular mark was flashing slightly. As Han Dong reached out and touched it, the wall immediately turned into an iron door with a triangular mark. The familiar void aura overflowed from the gap in the door. Behind the door, there were 3 layers of extremely airtight leather curtains to isolate the room and prevent it from affecting the sterile biological laboratory, where Han Dong's main body was located. After passing through the layers of curtains, a small laboratory with only space 13 of the main area appeared in front of him. It was grayish-purple in style. The main material used to build the laboratory was similar to the void crystal used by Dean Richard. The 3 walls in the laboratory, excluding the wall where the entrance was, were drawn with a 3-state transformation diagram that Han Dong was familiar with. The body imprinted by the void mark would undergo 3 stages of transformation: frowny face, ether, starlight, cause, and effect. Through the explanation of the diagram, it corresponded to the body, soul, and origin. A rather complicated glass device had been built on the experimental table, and, at the same time, there was a high-speed centrifuge on the side. He only needed to put a certain centrifuged liquid into a beaker. By igniting the spirit lamp for distillation, the whole device could operate automatically. Then, the finished liquid obtained from the end of the device was collected through the syringe and sent back to Han Dong's main body, cell mass. There was no need for Han Dong to ask. The laboratory system with AI had already started to introduce the purpose and usage of the Void Laboratory. Because the host head is a special body with no attributes, it can adapt to any attribute increase. Currently, the laboratory is dedicated to the research of the void. If the host collects excess cell essence, quality, or above, it can be brought to the Void Laboratory for purification. The entire experimental system will transform the cell essence into void essence. Injecting the void essence into the main body cells would not increase the weight of the cells, nor could it be used to upgrade the head. It can only be used for upgrade of tentacles. Nice. Hearing this explanation, Han Dong felt like he had discovered a new continent. Tentacles had always been Han Dong's greatest killing move. When he had first obtained Nicholas's body and entered the Destiny Realm, he had used the tentacles to instantly kill the evil spirit. This kind of external performance originated from the hybrid demon, which was the direction Han Dong wanted to develop. Before breaking the seed, Han Dong only carried out the simplest release and recovery. Because of the addition of Scarlet Count's consciousness, the tentacles could change into the shape of a blood dog isomerization. But the essence of the tentacles did not change. They were still gray tentacles with spots. But unfortunately, Han Dong did not have high-quality cell essence at hand. All the essence had been exhausted during the upgrade of the head, so he continued to ask the laboratory system, what kind of changes will happen when the tentacles are upgraded? The injection of the void attribute will give the tentacles the ability related to space, mainly absorption and pulling. For a moment, the high-dimensional picture he saw when he passed through the door appeared in Han Dong's mind. It seemed that he had foreseen in advance the scene of short-distance space transfer through the tentacles. The tentacles shot out from the palm of the hand were attached to the surface of a certain substance. Through the space pull, the host directly reached the position where the tentacles were attached. Ha ha ha! The scene that flashed by made Han Dong unable to restrain his excitement, and he laughed wildly. It seems that I need to collect some high-quality essence during the search for the clown. Upgrading the tentacles will greatly increase the success rate of finding the ultimate treasure. My decision was not wrong at all. Under the premise that there are already 3 anomalies, the addition of an additional laboratory is better than a prison cell. Moreover, due to the upgrade of the brain, the overall attributes have increased. Whether it is the number of tentacles, the brain capacity, the calculation ability, or the strength of the spirit, I can release more tentacles faster, more accurately, and more often. Under the current circumstances, Miss Jane's illusion can only affect me with the cooperation of others. After obtaining a satisfactory result, Han Dong left the laboratory. Master, walking in the corridor of the prison, he was suddenly stopped by Togu when he was about to return to the church. If Master has time, can you use your reasonable resident status to go to my previous residence? After going through this series of events, Togu showed a strong desire to grow, wanting to return to his previous status as a resident. Don't worry, since it wasn't easy to come to Ryder Town, I will naturally help you find the missing demon power. If someone occupies your place, it will be a good resource for my experiments. Thank you, Master. Toga made a very standard bow. Han Dong looked at the other two anomalies. Miss Chun-Li, Nico, after this incident is over, I will think of a way to increase your ranks. The red-clothed Chun-Li floated in the prison cell, repeatedly banging her head against the wall. The lack of strength she showed during the incident was a big blow to Chun-Li. Nico was also drawing circles on the spot. The despair she felt when she was caught and suppressed by Dean Richer in the pyramid made her mood quite low. However, whenever she thought of Han Dong removing the color and risking his life to save her, Nico would bashfully wave her tentacles and hit the wall of the prison cell. Seeing that the anomalies were in good condition, Han Dong left the portable prison with peace of mind. After spending an entire day, he finally finished dealing with his personal matters. There was still no news from the town hall. Walking in the wheat field at night, Han Dong made a phone call to Diana, who was about to sleep, to meet him at the convenience store. After a whole day of rest, Diana was still in a soft state. The loss of her bones seemed to be very difficult to recover. As soon as they met, her soft body directly lay on the table. Her short black hair just happened to fall on the table, and she stared at Han Dong with sleepy eyes. Let's talk about the hybrid demonization. Chapter 665. Hearing the words, hybrid demonization, Diana, who was originally very tired, immediately widened her eyes. Indeed, Diana was very interested, or rather, she was very interested in anything that could improve her abilities. Hybrid demonization was a very dangerous field. It was even called the Forbidden Zone by the Knights. Commander Coden's warning had always remained in her heart. But after stepping into the Forbidden Zone once, Diana wanted to try it more times after obtaining the great power within. And this Nicholas in front of her was an existence that was closely related to the hybrid demons. Commander Coden had also told Diana in private that she could consult Han Dong about the hybrid demons. This was one of the reasons why Commander Coden wanted the two of them to work together. During the night conference, Commander Hugo of the Secret Whispers Knights had already verified it. Han Dong had an extremely rare, immune to contamination physique. It was because of this physique that Han Dong was able to display a relatively complete hybrid demon state during the night conference and block the terrifying Egyptian princess during the Golden Apple trial. The biggest risk of hybrid demons was self-contamination. This kind of physique could be said to be a bug-level existence. Moreover, during the incident in the inner chapter, Han Dong had used the hybrid demon's ability many times in front of the team. Although Diana didn't say it out loud, she had long wanted to ask Han Dong about hybrid demons. Because of some things in the past, especially the matter of her being defeated by Han Dong during the night conference. The extremely competitive Diana had always regarded Han Dong as a competitor, who seemed to be very proficient in this field. Diana's voice was very soft. During the process of searching for the source core, Diana had only released 5% of her hybrid demons before instantly killing all the dwarf demons in the mine. Due to the problem with my physique, Mr. Black and White let me touch the hybrid demon domain very early on. Han Dong also used the immunity physique that Commander Hugo had found for him as an answer. Coupled with the name of Mr. Black and White, it was to make Diana completely believe in him. Then, all of a sudden, Diana put out her hand and pressed down on her shoulders. Many thin and long bones darted out from her pores. Seeing this, Han Dong immediately stood up and pressed the bone back into his body with a single finger. The hardness of the white bone was similar to cartilage between bone and tentacle. So soft. As he was helping to suppress the fine bones, Han Dong's fingers also landed on Diana's shoulder. It was so soft that he couldn't even feel the existence of any bones. The soft body of a young girl, coupled with Diana's appearance as an 18-year-old student, as well as her exquisite short hair and small face. Han Dong still did not have any reaction. However, it was also because she had said the words so soft that Diana blushed a little. Han Dong muttered to himself, "That's strange. Logically speaking, the hybrid demon's soul should have been destroyed by now. You're just borrowing its energy to break the seed, so there shouldn't be such a strong reaction." Diana didn't hide anything and shared what she knew. "When I broke the seed, the hybrid demon I chose was a terrifying existence that my father encountered when he walked the Silk Road. There's a reason why Uncle Coden told me not to touch the hybrid demon for the time being. Moreover, when I killed this thing, she wasn't completely killed by me. Instead, she committed suicide for some special reason." "Suicide? Why?" "I don't know either. In my father's will, he mentioned its existence. He told me that when I reached the stage of breaking the seed, as long as I was 100 kilometers away from the holy city, she would automatically find my aura and appear. Uncle Coden seemed to know something, but he refused to tell me." As Diana said this, Han Dong's curiosity was completely aroused. He was even more curious about Diana's father. What kind of person could be completely expelled by Dragon City, travel thousands of miles in the apocalypse with his infant daughter, and even choose the target of breaking the seed for his daughter in advance? No wonder Commander Coden spent so much effort to nurture Diana. The uniqueness in this is enough to increase the combat power of the holy city. Just as Han Dong was thinking, Scarlet Count suddenly sent a telepathic message to him. "Nicholas, the thing in this little girl's body is a little interesting. The thing in her body is the same as me. It retains a part of its consciousness, and it doesn't belong to the European species. It must have followed us from a very distant place. The old king was very strict about the distribution of territory, so this kind of situation usually doesn't happen. Nurture this girl well. If we continue to face the 10 demons in the future, this girl will be of great help." "Yes, I know." Han Dong took a deep breath. The situation was more complicated than he had imagined. If he wanted to teach Diana how to become a hybrid demon, it wouldn't be as easy as he had imagined. He had to find out what kind of hybrid demon was hiding in her body. After all, Diana was a real human. If he carelessly tried to become a hybrid demon, there was a high chance that he would suffer a backlash. If that happened, even if he successfully cleared the Destiny Realm, he wouldn't be able to answer to Commander Coden. "Can I touch your forehead?" "Yes." Diana thought that Han Dong would touch her forehead with his finger, just like what he did just now. Who knew? Han Dong suddenly stood up and leaned forward, bringing his face closer. It was as if a couple was about to kiss. It was an irritated reaction. Smack! Even though Diana's bones had softened, her slap was still very loud. A human-shaped hole appeared in the wall of the convenience store, and a black shadow fell into the cornfield 100 meters away. Han Dong spent more than 10 seconds to recover from the concussion. He walked back to the convenience store with a helpless expression. Perhaps Han Dong didn't explain it clearly, and he didn't blame this girl. Diana, who was already very weak, slumped onto the table because of the sudden slap. She couldn't move even if she wanted to. "Hey, let me explain." Han Dong pointed at the eye on his forehead that had just opened. "I need to place this eye on your forehead to see the condition of your body. I want to gather as much information as possible about the hybrid demons. That's all." "I'm sorry." Diana could only say these words while lying on the table. It seemed that she could only rely on Han Dong to carry her home tonight. This time, when Han Dong leaned forward, he deliberately condensed a layer of yellow sand on his face. Don't be fooled by the fact that this girl in front of him was a soft high school girl. She could easily slap a normal person's head off. As the two people's foreheads touched, this scene was so intimate that it made Diana's cheeks blush. Similarly, Han Dong's face was also flushed red. Large amounts of veins were bulging on his forehead, and sweat was dripping down from his forehead. What is this? On the hillside where countless skeletons were piled up, there was a white, withered tree. Under the withered tree sat a woman. Perhaps he had read too much Journey to the West. When Han Dong looked at the woman's appearance and figure, he couldn't help but say, "Madam of Bones." Chapter 666. Diana was not wary of Han Dong at all, so she could observe him from such a close distance. She could see through the skull and see the talent tree hidden in the brain. The talent tree, or the seed of destiny, existed in the overlapping space inside the brain. Ordinary vision could not see through it. Talent tree, 10,000 bones. Although Han Dong knew that Diana's nature was special, he did not expect it to be a scene of 10,000 bones piled up. The most amazing thing was that there was a woman sitting under the tree. She wore a lily bun that was commonly used by women in ancient times. She only wore a thin silk doo-doo with a skull pattern sewn on it with silver thread. There was also a bone finger glove between her index fingers that removed impurities, making her fingers more than half a meter long. Her lower body was surrounded by a white bone skirt. Her figure and appearance were worthy of being described as a beautiful woman. This image immediately reminded Han Dong of one of the 4 great classical novels that he had read when he was young. It was indeed very suitable for the image of the Madam of Bones. However, this madam's nature was that of a hybrid demon. The bones that grew on a madam's body could be soft or hard. Sometimes they wriggled like tentacles, and sometimes they turned into a hard shell. As if she felt that someone was spying on her, the madam immediately looked over. Han Dong was so scared that his face turned red. This was not out of shyness, but a kind of pressure. This kind of humanoid appearance gave Han Dong an invisible pressure. This made Han Dong sure of one thing. This madam and count were both mature hybrid demons that had perfectly evolved. Captain Coden deliberately chose to hide this matter. It was possible that even Diana herself did not know the level of the hybrid demons. At this time, Count sent a telepathic message. "Ha, I knew something was wrong. It turns out that she is a hybrid demon of the same level as me. No wonder she dared to cross the old king's territory and come to Italos. This little girl is quite interesting. You should interact with her more in the future." Han Dong did not reply. Since he had confirmed this important piece of news, Han Dong had to make good use of Diana's potential in this incident. Currently, Han Dong chose to rely on the little magic eye. Waves of energy were directly injected into the white bone area. From Han Dong's point of view, his little sister could absorb Han Dong's unique essence to replenish her energy, even though her attributes did not match her own. It should be the same for other hybrid demons. As expected, following the infusion of energy, Diana, who was originally weak and powerless, felt a warm current spreading from her forehead to her entire body, causing the feeling of weakness to quickly dissipate. Crackle, 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 the bones scattered all over his body kept making sounds as they recovered their original hardness. After the energy injection was completed, the madam under the bone tree also bowed slightly to Han Dong, who was peeping at her. The demonic eye closed. As Han Dong slowly moved his head away, he saw that Diana was staring at him with her sparkling black eyes. She was extremely astonished at the fact that her weakened state had been lifted. "Come with me. Let's see your mutated devil." Han Dong spread his wings and flew all the way to the edge of the farm, arriving at an abandoned farm without any scarecrows. As Diana's body had recovered, she arrived at an extremely fast speed. "Use it and let me see. Don't worry about the side effects and physical exhaustion. I will help you recover." Perhaps it was because of Han Dong's performance in the incident, or perhaps it was because he had just helped her recover. Diana's words became hesitant. I still can't control this power. It might be a threat to you." "Don't worry, just do it." Han Dong, who had just upgraded his head, was still very confident. Moreover, in terms of proficiency in mutated devil, Han Dong was definitely a teacher compared to people of the same level. "Okay, then I will use 3% first." Han Dong shook his finger to indicate, "You don't have to do this. Just take out 10% of your mutated devil. It will be easier for me to see through your body and the changes in energy. I will find the problem and solve it in one go." "Okay, be careful. You almost hurt Cass and mine. Come." Han Dong looked at Diana with his demonic eye. In an instant, her aura changed. What is this? Why can all the cells in my body secrete osteocalcin? Not only did the dense osteocalcin not mineralize, but mixed with the liquid bone matrix and replaced the blood flow. What is the principle behind this? Although there were intense changes in her body, Diana's appearance did not change much. It was just that her skin became fairer, and her eyes were covered with a layer of white bone membrane. 70% of her body had been replaced by bone. Wriggling white cartilage had also grown on the surface of her brain, interfering with Diana's thoughts to a certain extent. Brain. No wonder. Just as Han Dong was immersed in thinking about the changes in Diana's cells, a dangerous aura spread throughout his body like needles. Han Dong was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated and raised his left hand. Wall of yellow sand. 5 walls of yellow sand with scarabs imprinted on them rose from the ground, separating the two of them. Who knew? Diana had no intention of forcefully breaking through it all. Instead, she used the soles of her feet as a fulcrum and gave an explosive sprint during the twisting process. Thus, she achieved a super-fast teleportation. She went around the yellow sand door and arrived in front of Han Dong. She opened her palms, and 2 softened, white bone tentacles drilled out from her palms. As the white bone tentacles came into contact with the air, they hardened to the maximum. At the same time, they slapped toward Han Dong's temples from the left and right. This speed was so fast that even the demonic eye could not see clearly. The probability of seeing through was only 51%. Han Dong did not dare to gamble on this probability. Whoosh! The twin thorns pierced through his temples from the left and right, killing him in one blow. However, the killed Han Dong turned into a yellow sand statue. A substitute. Han Dong had already retreated 5 meters in advance. As the statue disintegrated, roar! A 100-eyed blood dog with a blood-red luster suddenly bit down. Crack! No matter how strong Diana's body was, this dog head formed by the isomerization of tentacles could still bite her body to pieces. However, it only bit half of her forearm. Diana had already dodged at the first moment. She used transient step again and closed in on her target. In less than a second, her broken right arm was restored to its original state due to the secretion of bone fluid. She attacked with her bone palms. She attacked Han Dong's head directly. Enough! Han Dong maximized the activation of the hybrid demon power in his body. In addition to the 2 terrifying 100-eyed blood dogs, there were also a large number of speckled tentacles floating behind him. The demonic eye showed a rather terrifying pattern of pupils. The crow can't touch the ground. Due to the influence of the domain type ability, the abandoned field turned into a crow graveyard filled with the aura of death. The danger instinctively caused Diana to be stunned for a second. This second was also quite fatal. Han Dong grabbed the top of her head with the mummy's arm and directly transmitted his voice to the coexisting consciousness inside her. Madam, Diana is still young. She is not yet able to co-manage the body with your consciousness. Let her try to control it herself. When Han Dong said this, he deliberately revealed the yellow seal on the back of his hand. It did not seem like he was giving an opinion, but rather an order. He, accompanied by a soul-stirring laughter, the madam's consciousness retreated. The cartilaginous tentacles on the surface of Diana's brain retracted. Her consciousness returned to normal, and she had achieved autonomous control. As Diana's eyes gradually became spirited, and she felt that she could control this power alone. In a moment of excitement, she suddenly hugged Han Dong in front of her. Due to the cartilaginous effect, it felt like a ball of extremely dense cotton candy to the touch. So soft, Han Dong could not help but sigh. Chapter 667. Although the madam's consciousness had completely faded, Diana could control her body on her own. But there was still a problem that had not been solved. He also wondered if Diana alone would be able to control the physical enhancement brought about by the metamorphic transformation. As expected, during the hug, something happened to her body. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several sharp bone spurs pierced through Diana's body. One of them pierced through Han Dong's waist and almost hurt his kidney. Han Dong temporarily distanced himself, but he always kept one hand on Diana's shoulder to provide her with a certain amount of energy. If Diana was unable to control her metamorphosis, then everything Han Dong had done would have been in vain. He had to let Diana learn self-control now. Diana, control all the abilities in your talent tree to control your body. Don't treat the wriggling tentacles in your body as an external object. It is a part of you. Okay. Diana squeezed out a word with great difficulty. During this time, Diana almost turned into a white human hedgehog. Even some bone grass and bone flowers grew in the surrounding land. The cell structure of the plants was affected by Diana. After about an hour, the bone spurs on the surface of her body gradually receded. In the end, Diana collapsed like a pool of soft mud. It was not a problem of energy supply, but she was too tired. She fell asleep as soon as she collapsed. Han Dong only needed to send her back to bed due to the problem of the bone spurs. The coat on Diana's body was completely shattered and scattered all over the ground. An extremely soft and fair girl lay on her side in the field. Seeing this scene, Han Dong still had a calm expression on his face. There were no distracting thoughts in his mind. He immediately took off the down jacket behind him and put on Diana. Then, he carried the soft girl back to his place. Walking in the field, Diana, whose head was drooping on her shoulders, said softly in Chinese, "Thank you." Han Dong was not sure if this thank you was said by Diana or by the madam of bones in his body. When the two of them returned to the farmhouse, Cass was leaning against the door. At night, on the farm wasteland, a man and a woman. The girl was even wearing a boy's jacket. Such a scene made Cass put on a thoughtful expression as he twirled the blonde hair in front of his face with his hand. "You're done so quickly?" Cass asked. Han Dong nodded and replied. He realized that this question seemed to be a bit ambiguous, so he quickly added, "The problem of the hybrid demons has been dealt with." Cass smiled and didn't say anything. "Hurry up and rest. I reckon that the town hall will send someone over early tomorrow morning. 2 days of events should be enough to thoroughly investigate the situation at the hospital." All right. After arranging for Diana to stay in a separate room, Han Dong himself couldn't stop laughing. This little girl's battle prowess was not weak at all. Just now, when she had transformed into her hybrid demon form, she had almost injured him. Just as Han Dong was about to go to bed, he suddenly thought of something and looked at Cass, who was leaning on the sofa. "Right, Cass. You could be considered to have used the hybrid demons to break the seed. Although you had our help, in the end, the energy was still absorbed by you. So far, have you touched upon the level of hybrid demons?" Cass nodded slightly. "I'm 1 year older than you. In a year's time, under the guidance of Captain Roland, I can barely use a small amount of hybrid demon ability. If there are any special situations in the future, I'll use it appropriately." All right. As expected, Cass was still very reliable. Han Dong lightly punched Cass's hard chest with his fist and turned back to his room to sleep. Dry Town Hall, in the depths of the lightless tunnel. Countless arms intertwined in front of the door, forming a tall woman who was 9 meters tall. At the same time, there was a scarecrow child beside her. The prosecutor involved the incident at the hospital. Therefore, the clerk and the director of the neighborhood committee jointly investigated the incident at the hospital. After the two of them jointly handed the investigation documents in front of the mayor, there was no need to read it all. The mayor completed the review in less than half a minute. In other words, Director Richard attempted to rebel and led the external force to descend on Dry Town. After being discovered by a new resident, he joined forces with Moonlight Miles and Prosecutor Jane to kill Director Richard before the disaster happened and stop all of this. The Scarecrow child nodded, but the clerk at the side seemed to have something to say about this result. "That is indeed the case, but please consider the relationship between the prosecutor and the director. As for the subsequent leadership of the hospital, please handle it carefully to avoid a second Director Richard. Okay, you may leave." "Mayor, there's one more thing. Although Director Sam doesn't think this matter is related to this incident, I think it's necessary to report it to you." Behind the desk, the figure whose face couldn't be seen clearly looked up slightly. "What is it?" The main person involved in this incident, the new resident promoted by Director Sam, is the young man who led Pennywise to the connection point 3 years ago. Okay, after this, I'll talk to this young man personally. Good day, Mayor. The clerk revealed a rather terrifying smile, turned around, and quickly left using the countless arms as tools. Then, the mayor picked up the phone in his hand and arranged for the transfer of human rights. Early morning, Sam's farm. The sun that had just risen was immediately covered by clouds, turning the farm into a lightless zone. Han Dong, who was having his meal in the convenience store, immediately felt a strange aura. A strange person wrapped in a cloak appeared in front of the door. His face was wrapped in bandages, revealing only 2 red eyes. To be precise, he was a staff member of the town hall. Warren Nicholas has been commended by the mayor for exposing Director Richard's conspiracy. You have obtained Drytown Permanent Individual Household Registration, Head of Household, Town Hall Certification, and enjoy exclusive rights as a head of household. A talent apartment on Palm Tree Street. This is your household register and apartment key. Thank you for your contributions to Drytown. Han Dong gladly received the reward and asked at the same time, May I know where Miles and Miss Jane are? Due to the death of the 5th fiend, the ranking has been moved forward. Miles has been nominated as the new 10th fiend for the final execution of Director Richard. As for being an inspector, that's just her job. May I know who's in charge of the hospital now? The mayor has personally arranged for Director Richard's daughter, Shirley Powell, to take over the control. At the same time, the town hall's commissioner will assist in managing the hospital. Thank you. As the person disappeared, the clouds in the sky dispersed. Phew! Next, it's time to fully investigate the clown. Chapter 668. The 3 members of Han Dong's team took the farm car and returned to Drytown. There was no danger when they returned to the town as normal residents. They could even see a few residents greeting the people in the car. After all, this was a car from the neighborhood committee. The car stopped in front of 35 Palm Street. Although it was called a talent apartment, it was actually a single building with red walls and a white roof. It even had a front garden. When the key was used to open the door, the system notification sounded. The team has obtained a permanent residence permit in Drytown and obtained the right to use a permanent residential house, 35 Palm Street. The basic requirements of Resurrection of the Clown, inner part, have been met. The team can choose Stop Fate and temporarily leave the Fate realm. The next time you can enter, you can choose Continue to continue the inner part. Note, the Continue function can only be used once. After the Continue function, it will be the same as the last time you left, including the exploration progress and the relationship between the members. However, the time will not be affected. When you leave, Drytown will still have a one-time flow. Since Resurrection of the Clown, inner part, is the end of the chain of events, the first team to achieve a perfect ending will receive an extremely rare reward. Did they need to return to the Holy City to rest? Han Dong's answer was no. Currently, the team was in good condition. The Continue function was mainly reserved for those who had experienced a terrifying event, and some members in the team were seriously injured. Cass and Diana's eyes were also quite determined. They had no intention of returning to the town. Moreover, the strength of the Dragon City team was not weak at all. If they were interrupted and delayed, it was very likely that they would have the upper hand. Moreover, judging from the current progress of the event, Han Dong's team was faster. This was the opportunity that Han Dong fought desperately for. Hua Zipping in the Dragon City team is extraordinary. He is stronger than me. The other one, Yu Wu, who is good at listening, also has a rather strange detection ability. He is also not weak in strategy. We must use our current advantage to continue to widen the distance between us and them. Okay. However, before a comprehensive investigation, I have to go to a place to improve my individual strength. Let's split up again. You're currently residents certified by the neighborhood committee. Try to start with the neighborhood committee and look for information about the clown. Try to understand anything related to disaster. I will meet you after I deal with my own things. All right. Han Dong's so-called private matters were naturally Tugu's matters. The 3 of them only rested in the house for 15 minutes. After familiarizing themselves with the structure of the house, they got up and set off. Creak. However, the moment he opened the door, Han Dong froze on the spot. Cass, who was following behind him, also had his mouth wide open. He was shocked and unable to accept the scene before him. The guess that Han Dong had made a long time ago was actually correct. Why would the system set the option to continue on the current node? In other words, before and after obtaining the permanent residence permit, the world of Inner Chapter would completely change. The overall rhythm and the subsequent main storyline would completely change. My guess is actually correct. Outside the door was the lively and harmonious streets of Dry Town. The world system had completely changed. Since it was 8:45 in the morning, it was the time for the residents of Dry Town to go to work. Most of the residents chose to meet up and go to work together. This included Han Dong's bodyguard, Moonlight Miles. On the cement road of Palm Street, Miles, who was dressed as an electrician, carried a standard electrician's equipment box in one hand and was about to rush to a school in Dry Town to repair electrical appliances. Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th was also with him. Jason, who was also an ogre, wore a hockey mask and carried a frightening long-handled axe in his hand. He had a job tag of Dry Town's lumberjack hanging on his chest and was about to head to the lumberjack in the back mountain. Perhaps it was the relationship of like a Trax-like. Leatherface, Hewitt Thomas Tommy, was carrying a chainsaw. He wore the same work badge as Jason and was also heading to the back of the mountain to cut wood. In addition, Nightmare Freddy, who was wearing a brownish-black top hat and a red and green striped sweater, had severe burns all over his body. He pushed an old-fashioned bicycle and walked in the team of the Ultimate Ogre. When they reached the fork in the road ahead, Freddy waved the iron claws in his hand and said goodbye to the three of them. He even seemed to be very envious of Miles, who had just become the 10th demon. Then he got on his beloved bicycle and drove to another street. Freddy was a private doctor who specialized in treating insomnia. That was right. This was the area that Han Dong guessed. Maine was an enlarged version of Dry Town. Han Dong and the others first arrived at the university, which corresponded to the school district where Miles was in charge of circuit maintenance. They then arrived at the farm district, which was the community committee that Sam was in charge of. Most of the staff there were scarecrows, and there was a cornfield in the backyard. As for Dry Town, which they arrived at by car along the asphalt road, it corresponded to the central street. I can only see the true appearance of Dry Town when I obtain a permanent residence permit. No wonder the system set up a continuation point here. This huge change is indeed like a new fate event. Demons dancing wildly. This was how Dry Town should be in Han Dong's mind. Perhaps every resident had the ability to kill, but Han Dong and the others, who were also residents, were not afraid. As long as they did not do anything to endanger the town, they were protected by the law. Most of the residents of Dry Town should have advanced from the small world. Try not to provoke them. Just go to the committee and look for information. Okay, after getting used to the situation in front of him, Han Dong embarked on the journey to find Togu's residence. Hi, Mr. Nicholas, good morning. While walking on the street, someone had already greeted Han Dong. Tilting his head, he saw a little girl who was mowing the lawn in her yard. She was wearing leather shoes and a small floral dress. However, the little girl's face was completely similar to a cyclostoma. When he looked deeper into the little girl's house, he saw the little girl's parents sitting at the dining table. Both of them were in a headless state. Good morning. Han Dong responded with a smile. If Mr. Nicholas is free, can you come play house with me? Sure. Han Dong just responded casually and left quickly. Along the way, he met many enthusiastic residents who were basically rushing to their jobs. As for Togu's original residence, it was not a single building in the town, but a monastery in the outskirts of the town. According to Togu, he was not the only visitor from hell in the monastery. Chapter 669. Ridley Town. Its residents were basically products of Western horror culture, which inevitably led to a result. There were more demons. Due to the issue of faith, many of the evil spirits in Western horror culture products were mostly related to demons. As for Togu's former residence, the mysterious monastery outside the town, it must be an area full of demons. Togu was only one of the demons in the monastery. On the way to the monastery outside the town, Togu suggested, "Master, I've been removed from Ridley Town. You're not a staff member of the monastery, so it might be difficult to enter this kind of private territory. Once you enter the territory of other residents, you might not be protected by the law. You seem to have a good relationship with the prosecutor. Do you want to try to enter the monastery through her?" Han Dong immediately refused. "Not for the time being. It's not a good thing to use relationship too many times. Although my relationship with Miss Jane is friendly, we don't owe each other anything. The reason why we cooperated in the hospital was that Director Richard's death would benefit both of us. But this time, the monastery's matter is related to Miss Jane's facial features. If I want to ask her for help, I'll owe her a favor. If that's the case, if Miss Jane needs my help with something dangerous, I can't refuse." "Well, the prosecutor seems to have the most secrets in the town. How much do you remember about the specific situation in the monastery?" When asked about this matter, Togu was silent for half the night. I basically don't remember. This memory seems to be sealed very tightly. Even if I reach the interior of the monastery, there might be many things I can't remember. I only remember that I'm definitely not the only demon in the monastery." "Okay, let's go and take a look first." Unexpectedly, just as Han Dong crossed Central Street, a strange feeling swept over him. The bandaged, red-eyed staff member belonging to the town hall walked out of the dark alley again. "Warren Nicholas, the mayor wants to see you. I hope you can spare some precious time to come with me." "Okay." Han Dong naturally couldn't refuse the mayor who wanted to see him. Han Dong could be considered an outstanding citizen who had exposed Dean Richard's betrayal. The mayor must have found him for something good. Perhaps he could even help with the next operation. Besides, Han Dong's individual household registration was also registered with the help of the town hall, so it must have something to do with the mayor. When he followed the staff into the front yard of the town hall, Han Dong was also slightly stunned by the thousands of arms crawling all over the building. He almost let wisdom decrease a little. Although Han Dong knew that these arms were related to the scribe, he still tried to ask the guide. "This is..." Lord Clerk's arm can effectively prevent any outsiders from entering the town hall and ensure that the mayor's work will not be disturbed by anyone. As Han Dong approached, a few of the arms that were crawling on the wall suddenly loosened and waved at Han Dong, just as he was about to enter. Suddenly, a woman that Han Dong had seen before walked out of the building with some documents in her hands. "You are Ma Tao Tao, Nicholas?" Han Dong bumped into the doctor in the Dragon City team and the only woman. Ma Tao Tao, who wore silver-rimmed glasses and overalls, exuded a different kind of sexy aura. It seemed that she was born with a charm attribute. However, Han Dong seemed to be immune to charm and was completely unmoved. "You work in the town hall?" "Yes. What are you doing here?" Ma Tao Tao smiled. Naturally, she would not reveal the current progress of her team. "We are helping in the neighborhood committee. We are here to get a document that Director Sam needs." "Oh, I still have something to do. I'll go first." "Okay." The two seemed to have a simple exchange, but in fact, they were constantly guessing. Ma Tao Tao also recorded Han Dong's visit to the town hall, including some of her personal guesses, so that she could report it to Captain Hua Zipping in the future. Han Dong also saw a lot of things. The documents in Ma Tao Tao's hands were printed with 2 seals. One of them was the exclusive seal of the town hall, and the other was the palm seal. The content of the document involved the missing residents of Dry Town. Palm seal. This group of people seems to be working for the clerk. That is to say, they should still be working on the main plot. However, the difficulty of the main plot should be higher than the one I received from Sam. It's a task from the town hall. Once completed, I will be certified by the town hall. My current advantage is not as great as I thought. I must seize every minute and second. Under the guidance of the staff, Han Dong passed through corridors and finally came to a dark passage. Here, even with night vision, it was useless. The little magic I could only see through less than 5 meters of darkness. "The mayor is inside." "Thank you." The staff stopped moving forward and let Han Dong walk in the dark passage alone. Perhaps it was a certain understanding of space, or the uniqueness of the little magic eye, Han Dong quickly grasped the uniqueness of the dark passage. He tried to empty his senses as much as possible and no longer focused on the current passage. But his mind was completely empty. An unlocked wooden door appeared. He turned the door handle and pushed it inward. The interior corresponded to a classical-style office. The hexagonal structure had bookshelves on each wall. The mayor, who was completely dark, was sitting inside the circular desk and carefully reviewing the world file in his hand. He couldn't see through it. Even with the little magic eye, it was only pure black. He could only see the outline of a human. For some reason, Han Dong felt that this outline and aura were somewhat familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. Of course, the pressure from the mayor's body was indescribable. Even if Han Dong teamed up with Dean Richard, they would still lose in a 2v1 against the mayor. Outsider, I know you can't stay in my town for a long time. However, because of your contribution to the town, I will still give you a permanent residence permit. Thank you, Mayor. It's not without reason to let you come here this time. If you go to the monastery like this, you will inevitably die a tragic death. Moreover, you will not be protected by my town's laws. Han Dong seemed to understand some of the mayor's meaning. Are you saying that it has something to do with Togu? Yes. You have indeed helped me a lot by exposing Dean Richard's conspiracy. However, 3 years ago, you forcibly abducted Togu and broke the rules of my dry town. However, the clerk mentioned that it was also you who lured Pennywise to the connection point. The merits and demerits cancel each other out, so I will let bygones be bygones. Yes, take this letter to the monastery. It will protect you from superficial harm to a certain extent. By the way, help me investigate something. Exclusive storyline, Mayor Monastery Investigation, has been triggered. Chapter 670. Exclusive plot. Mayor, investigate the monastery has been triggered. Note, exclusive plot is given by an important NPC under special conditions. Personnel, time, and hidden conditions need to be met. Exclusive plot is different from side plot. The plot will touch on the essence of true fate and provide key clues. Summary. Recently, the monastery has often applied for living resources from the town hall. There are often strange howls at night. The investigation team from the town hall went to the monastery for a week-long investigation a month ago. There were no casualties, but no violations were found. The abnormality index also remained in the normal stable range. Requirements. With the universal pass of Dry Town, enter the monastery and live for more than 3 days. Write down in detail what you see and hear in 3 days in a record book and bring it back to the mayor. Reward. A job. The quality of the job is related to the content of the notes brought back. This universal pass, 3 days, allows you to enter any private place in Dry Town, and you will enjoy unconditional legal protection. However, if someone from the monastery asks about the origin of your pass, don't mention the town hall or me. This will make them more vigilant and less likely to give themselves away. Understood. Remember, you will naturally find what you want when you investigate further. No matter whether Togu has left Dry Town or not, he is still my townspeople. Thank you, Mayor. By the way, it's best to bring your teammates. Otherwise, you may not be able to hide Togu well. The people in the monastery may go crazy because of Togu's existence. When Han Dong left the office, he went straight back to the entrance of the lightless passage. Recalling the mayor's silhouette, Han Dong felt that he had seen him somewhere before. Strange. Logically speaking, I shouldn't have seen him before. Even if the mayor was promoted from a small world, it was still something that happened decades or even centuries ago. I can't have seen him in the Destiny space. What's with this sense of familiarity? Forget it. Now is the monastery's matter. Since the mayor asked me to investigate this matter, the mayor must have noticed something, but he doesn't have any definite evidence. The system also gave a hint of the exclusive plot. It's basically certain that there is a big problem with the monastery, and it may even be related to the clown. Just as Han Dong passed through the main hall of the town hall, suddenly, an arm stopped him. La la la, accompanied by the song. Countless severed arms suddenly fell from the ceiling and piled up in front of Han Dong. Finally, An extremely horrifying woman's head popped out from the pile of arms. It clearly had the same facial features as a human's, but it didn't look right. If one were to use the uncanny valley effect to evaluate the scribe, she would not be considered a human, but a strange existence that was 90% similar to a human being. It had a slightly large mouth, large eyes that were slightly bifurcated, and a small nose. The combination made one's hair stand on end. Why is the mayor looking for you? Because Han Dong came out unscathed after meeting the mayor. The clerk seemed somewhat dissatisfied and even a little jealous. It's about the monastery. When the words monastery were mentioned, the scribe suddenly covered his mouth with his 7 slender arms and let out an extremely creepy laugh. At the same time, he made way for Han Dong. Oh, haha, go quickly. Go quickly. The nuns in the convent will receive you well. After Han Dong left, the scribe sang a cheerful song the entire time. This woman seems to really want me to die. After leaving the town hall, Han Dong listened to the mayor's suggestion and called back his teammates who had just been arranged to go to the neighborhood committee to investigate the matter. They went to the monastery together. One conclusion could be drawn from the mayor's words. Once Toga's existence was exposed to the monastery, it would be a massacre that ignored the town's laws. Just as Han Dong explained the details of the exclusive storyline to his teammates, Diana suddenly gave him a piece of information. Monastery? I just saw something about the monastery in the disaster. Information? It seems that a major disaster called the Demon Locust appeared in the monastery a few years ago. Tell me more. Diana only skimmed through the information quickly. She couldn't remember much. She immediately rushed back to the neighborhood committee at the fastest speed possible and made a copy of the information to bring to Han Dong. Rather than calling it information, it was more like a newspaper from back in the day. In the relevant reports, some keywords, most of which were names, were deliberately omitted. Due to improper management of the monastery, the demon locust rampaged and caused a large number of low-level nuns to die. The nuns gave birth to a rare, purebred demon. Due to the demon's severe antisocial personality, it caused the deaths of 8 town residents. In the end, the scribe came forward and sent the purebred demon back to hell. Afterwards, the 10 demons all cleaned up and rebuilt the monastery. Half a year later, the monastery returned to normal operations. Demon Locust, after receiving the information, he immediately rushed to the monastery with his 2 teammates. After all, the mayor only gave them 3 days to investigate. If they couldn't find any information, such an exclusive mission would be wasted. More importantly, Toga wouldn't be able to recover. The closer they got to the edge of the town, the more sparse the houses became. There was a road sign on the side of the road at the exit of the town. It was printed with a clear sign, Monastery 300 m ahead. At this moment, there was a noise from a bin on the side of the road. A tramp with a beer bottle in his hand and covered in stinking linen jumped out of the bin and blocked the path of Han Dong's group. When this tramp walked, a large number of rat women would fall to the ground. Are you going to the monastery? Squeak, squeak, squeak. The tramp's voice was sometimes high and sometimes low. Yes. Be careful. The things inside are quite troublesome. If you die, I'll collect your corpses. Thank you. After saying that, the tramp's body was directly broken into thousands of rat women and returned to the garbage dump. If one looked carefully, they would find a circular rat woman imprint at the back of the garbage can. Nicholas, that tramp just now? Cass asked in a low voice. Yes, I'm afraid that the mayor or the scribe arranged a security guard at the exit of the town to monitor the special residents of the monastery. His aura isn't weak at all. As the 3 of them left the main city of Dry Town, they walked 300 meters in the suburbs. The road in front of them was directly blocked and turned into a bottomless abyss, similar to the scene in the movie Silent Hill. Most of the buildings were pointed arches and ribbed vaults. The tall and thin Gothic-style monastery was built on the edge of the cliff. Almost 1/3 of the area was over the cliff. Chapter 671. The part of the monastery that went beyond the cliff was an open hallway corridor. From afar, a group of nuns in black uniforms were holding candles and walking around at night. Even though it was daytime, a large amount of fire could still be seen in the monastery. Seeing such a scene, Togu still couldn't remember anything. Walking along the shaded path to the monastery's gate, they would pass by a strange graveyard. Han Dong had the attribute of death, and Han Dong would be able to sense an ordinary graveyard. But this graveyard couldn't establish any connection with the death aura emitted by Han Dong. He could only smell a foul stench from the graveyard. Soon, on the black withered trees around the graveyard, there were man-made engravings. This is the tomb of the victims. Please do not disturb. The victims are the nuns who were attacked by the demon locusts and died. To be honest, if it weren't for the please do not disturb and the fact that they were about to go to the monastery, Han Dong really wanted to be a gravedigger. Some kind of magic array in the graveyard would prevent the small magic eye from spying. It could only see some saprophytic creatures drilling in the soil. After passing through the graveyard, the dark and heavy monastery gate was in front of them. The person in charge of guarding the gate was a special nun. A thick and strong hemp rope was tied to the succubus sculpture above the gate, and the other end was tied to the nun's neck. She was hung in the middle of the gate. Because of the strangulation, her eyes were bulging, allowing the nun to carefully observe the outsiders. As Han Dong and the others approached, the nun's strangled throat made a hoarse sound. The monastery absolutely prohibits non-demon attribute and non-monastery-related personnel from entering. We are the community staff under Director Sam. We want to come and experience the internal life of the monastery for 3 days, so that we can write an article, The Life of the Monastery, and encourage more residents with interests in this area to understand and join the monastery. Han Dong changed to the name of the neighborhood committee and handed the all-purpose pass to the nun who was guarding the gate. Something strange immediately happened. The nun's back suddenly burst open. A demon egg covered in mucus with eyes on the surface fell out of the nun's body. When it came into contact with the air, the life in the egg immediately began to move wildly. It tore open the egg with its sharp claws. A succubus with 2 curved horns on her forehead, a voluptuous figure, and a coquettish appearance crawled out from within. Rumble. When the door opened, the newborn succubus took out a fitting nun's outfit from the closet beside the door and put it on. Her slender tongue licked the corner of her mouth, and she looked at Han Dong and the others with a seductive gaze. She stretched out her hand and gestured for everyone to follow. Are all the nuns here succubi? Toga's previous life seemed to be pretty good. Because of the pass, Han Dong and the other 2 were brought to the residential area for outsiders by the nun. At the same time, they were given a detailed map of the interior of the monastery. Stone walls, candles, and a big soft bed. Han Dong naturally chose to let the team members stay together. 1 room was enough. Those who enter the monastery have to abide by the relevant rules of the monastery. Every night from midnight to 4 in the morning, all the nuns will go to the main hall for ritual worship. During this period of time, please stay in your rooms obediently and don't walk around. At other times, you can move around in any public area and experience the monastery life you want. With special permission, I can take you to visit the working area of the monastery. The area marked with red lines on the map is a forbidden area in the monastery, especially the area behind the Devil's Gate. It is absolutely forbidden for outsiders to set foot in. You must not get close. Even if you're not discovered by us, you will be torn to pieces by the things inside. For some reason, although the nun kept reminding them of the forbidden area, Han Dong had a feeling. She seemed to be deliberately revealing information about the Devil's Gate. Okay, after the related matters were discussed, the succubus nun immediately talked about her personal matters. Warren Nicholas, you are an outstanding citizen who joined hands with the prosecutor to kill Dean Richard. If you complete the requirements of the neighborhood committee in advance, you can come to the nun's residence to find me. Here is my key to the door. We nuns usually stay in a 4-person dorm. My roommates and I welcome your arrival. The nun handed over an ancient bronze key. She deliberately stretched out her succubus tail under her skirt and curled it into the shape of a heart. She even imperceptibly released a seductive spiritual influence. However, Han Dong was not affected at all. This was normal. The succubi in hell fed on desire. When a strong male came here, it was a rare food in their eyes. Han Dong took the key and immediately put it into his pocket. Perhaps the key could be used for other purposes. After the nun left, the squad immediately locked the guest room door and started to discuss the upcoming investigation. Cass was sitting on a stone bench, polishing his shield. This is the monastery? It's not as dangerous as I expected. There's no danger because our target is still on the surface of the monastery. Diana, did you discover anything? Diana scratched her finger bone and said, "This nun is a little strange. She seems to be deliberately telling us about the existence of the Devil's Gate. She also specifically said that they will hold the worship ceremony in the early hours of the morning. We only need to sneak into the Devil's Gate during this period of time, and no one will be able to find us." That's right. This nun seems to be warning us, but her actual purpose is to lure us. She wants to use the curiosity of the investigators to deliberately lure outsiders into the forbidden area. Once we die, they can also explain to the outside world that they warned us in advance. It's just that we're courting death. However, we still need to go deeper to find the information that the mayor wants. How about this? We'll use the time during the day to walk around the monastery. Tonight, when the nuns gather in the main hall, we'll try to go to the Devil's Gate and see what's the situation. Okay, after that, the three of them pretended to be the staff of the neighborhood committee and walked around the monastery casually. According to the words left by the first generation of builders on the stone tablet in the lobby, the monastery was built in 1583. The fundamental purpose of the construction was to guard and suppress the Devil's Gate, a secret passage that existed naturally in the world and connected to the border of hell. There were candlesticks set up in every area of the monastery. A total of more than 10,000 candles maintained the light in the monastery. Wherever they went, they could see the nuns responsible for lighting and changing the candles. Even though the current monastery had completely fallen and the nuns had all become succubi. However, they still seemed to be afraid of the thing behind the door, or perhaps they had some other purpose. Chapter 672. Actually, if the depths of the monastery were really the Devil's Gate that led to hell, Han Dong felt that it would be fine. After all, Han Dong had really been to hell once. The Commander Malone he was familiar with was a demon king in hell. Moreover, it would solve the problem of Togu to a certain extent. As long as Togu was brought back to the origin of hell for a period of time, Togu should be able to recover completely. While staring at the written records of the monastery on the surface of the stone tablet in the lobby, Han Dong thought to himself, the monastery definitely didn't attract the attention of the mayor because of the Devil's Gate. The monastery has a long history and should be one of the first buildings in Dreary Town. If there really was a problem, something would have happened long ago. The real problem must be related to the clown. Since the clown was brought back to Dreary Town, there have been many problems in Dreary Town, including the locust incident in the monastery 3 years ago. While the group was staring at the stone tablet, an unknown darkness slowly invaded the lobby area. Only the candlelight kept the place bright. The person in charge of the monastery arrived, accompanied by a series of system prompts. Resident Nun Valak has arrived. Cass immediately put his cold iron shield in front of everyone. Diana also immediately grew 2 bone sword from her palms. I'll negotiate. Han Dong quickly stepped forward and blocked the 2 of them behind him. They were not intruders now, but residents who came to the monastery with normal identities. Even if the darkness exuded a deadly and terrifying aura, Han Dong's first choice was still to negotiate. In the darkness, a pale-faced nun who looked very much like the American singer Mary Leanne Manson floated out of the darkness. Her demonic eyes were wide open, black pupils and yellow pupils. How did you get in? Demonic language, and nun brought us in. Han Dong had already replied in demonic language skillfully. At the same time, he took out his pass. Nun Valaka revealed her extremely terrifying yellow teeth. A strange voice came from the surrounding darkness, giving off a sense of oppression. That's impossible. I haven't received any news of visitors. Even if Sam arranged for you to come here with a universal pass, you still need to go through the monastery's strict examination before you can enter. Could it be that more locusts have escaped? Ghost nun Valaka had a grave expression on her face. It was obvious that she had encountered some trouble. Han Dong was slightly surprised. Could it be that the succubus who led them in was not from the monastery? Thinking of this, Han Dong hurriedly strengthened the concealment of the key given by the succubus to avoid being detected by the person in charge of the monastery. Han Dong also pretended to be ignorant and explained how they entered the monastery. We followed the road signs, crossed the cemetery of the victims, and arrived at the monastery gate. At the entrance, he met a nun who had hanged herself. Separate a succubus from her body and bring us into the monastery. 2 years ago, due to the locust disaster, the monastery's doors were completely closed. The entrance to the monastery has long been changed to a secret passage between the cliffs. The person you're talking about is the locust root that was killed by the clerk. Since you're sent by the community, it is necessary to confirm the safety of my monastery. Come with me. Ghost nun Valaka, as the administrator, attached great importance to this matter. She immediately took Han Dong and the others to the gate area to find out whether what they said was true or false. This woman is not weak at all. Following behind the ghost nun, Han Dong could feel a strong and rich demonic aura. Moreover, she was constantly releasing darkness. She was appointed as the administrator of the monastery by the mayor, so she must not be weak. Ghost Nun led everyone along the cliffs through the secret passage of the monastery. Returning to the ground, they went through the forest path to the main entrance of the monastery that Han Dong and others had spoken of. During the crossing of the cemetery, Ghost Nun suddenly stopped in front of one of the graves and reached out to the depths of the soil. Chirp chirp, a fat locust about half the size of an arm. It had densely packed curved teeth that formed a shell, crystal red wings, and a large human-like mouth. The moment she caught the locust, Ghost Nun immediately pierced her nails into its body and injected dark energy into it. It quickly died and turned into a pool of sticky black matter. There really are locusts. Come with me. If that thing is resurrected, we must kill it. Crossing the cemetery, they once again came to the main entrance of the monastery. The hanged nun was still hanging here. However, the originally fresh skin had now become old and rotten, completely turned into a withered corpse. There was a huge opening on her back, which was where the egg came from. There's a locust smell that hasn't dissipated yet. When you just came to the main entrance, did an egg with eyes fall out from her body, and then a newborn succubus grew out? Yes, I didn't expect that after 2 years, she could still be resurrected. It is indeed the most difficult locust to kill in hell. This matter must be reported to the town hall, and let the clerk deal with it personally. Miss Wallaka, please calm down. I think there is no need to report this matter for the time being. If a terrifying existence like the scribe descends, the so-called locust will also be frightened and hide in the deepest part. They won't be easy to kill. Why don't you let the few of us, plus your help, try to find her real body? Killing him head-on is the best solution. Ghost Nun suddenly put her terrifying face forward and stared at Han Dong. You're the new resident who cooperated with the prosecutor to kill Dean Richard. Yes, I have some means to kill the devil. Ghost Nun revealed a mouth of dim yellow teeth and chuckled. How about this? Since the time limit of your pass is 3 days, I will give you 3 days to investigate and find the hidden locust. If you can't do it, I will let the people in the consultation hall deal with it. Thank you, Miss Wallaka. The group left from the main entrance. Han Dong turned to look at the hanged nun, examined the strange cemetery, and felt for the key in his pocket. He already had a certain guess in his heart. After returning to the cloister, Han Dong took the opportunity to ask the administrator of the cloister. Miss Wallaka, there is one thing I don't quite understand. Since you are all devils, why are you responsible for suppressing the hell locust and the thing behind the devil's gate? Hell is very big. We are fundamentally different. I am loyal to the mayor, and the nuns under me are all qualified citizens of Dry Town. But the devil behind the gate is different. Their invasion is only about the destruction of Dry Town. Oh, at this time, Ghost Nun Walika seemed to have received a telepathic message. She took out a stack of information and appended it from her body. My subordinates have just confirmed the identities of the three of you from Sam. This is detailed information about the Hell Locust. It will help your investigation. The pendant allows you to move freely in any area of the cloister. If your investigation involves the inner side of the Devil's Gate, you need to be accompanied by me personally. Chapter 673. Strange things happened as soon as he arrived at the monastery. Many mysteries were put in front of Han Dong. He needed to carefully sort out these mysteries before he could find out the secret of the monastery and the secret of the disaster in Dry Town. After the monastery's supervisor, Ghost Nun Varaka, finished negotiating with Han Dong, she immediately brought a few of her subordinates, the black-faced nuns, a special individual whose face was black, and rushed to the tomb of the victims at the front gate to clear out the Hell Locust that had reappeared. After Han Dong separated from a ghost nun, he first went to the nuns' residential area. As expected, he did not find the succubus that had lured Han Dong into the monastery at the beginning. Moreover, the nuns living in the monastery were not all succubi. There were some other species from hell. They looked strange, or they had many limbs, but Togu seemed to be able to deal with them. Han Dong also took out the key given by the succubus nun. Compared to the lock of the bedroom, it was completely different. Most likely, this key will be used in the depths of the monastery. Deliberately leaked the Devil's Gate to lure us into the depths of the monastery. Try to lure me to open a certain door? Are they so confident that I will definitely open the door corresponding to the key? Haha, interesting. Thinking of this, Han Dong suddenly turned his head. Diana, I have a mission for you. Do you want me to go after the succubus at the beginning? No. She should have left or hidden in the depths of the monastery. I need you to change into a nun's outfit. Live with the nuns here for a whole day. Completely familiarize yourself with their habits and imitate their aura. In other words, disguise yourself as an unscrupulous nun. Okay, Diana, who was born as a night watcher, was an assassin. Usually, as a night watcher, she would often receive some assassination missions to secretly get rid of some fallen existences in the Holy City. In addition to powerful assassination techniques, hiding and disguising were also part of her training. Diana did not hesitate at all. She found a nun in charge on her own accord and followed the nun to patrol the monastery, lighting and changing the candles in every corner. What about me? Cass had already sensed that he must have a mission as well. Han Dong quickly wrote a letter. To prevent any special situations, Cass, help me make a trip to Dry Town. This letter must be delivered to the target personally. No one else could transfer it. Staring at the recipient on the letter, Cass felt his scalp tingle. Do you have to do this? We have to consider the possibility that both sides are lying to us. If the worst-case scenario occurs, we'll be trapped like turtles in a jar after entering the gates of hell to investigate. Now is the time to investigate the nature and truth of Dry Town. The overall difficulty will definitely be higher than the opening. We must prepare well. All right, I'll go right away. After assigning tasks to his teammates, Han Dong returned to his room alone and carefully read the information given by the ghost nun. It was about the Hell Locusts. It talked about the appearance of locusts in the depths of the monastery 3 years ago. After an investigation, it was found that it was a nun who was responsible for patrolling the inner side of the Gate of Devils. She violated the rules and went to the depths where she was not supposed to go, leading a Hell Locust to invade her body. With her as the source of infection, in just one day, 9 nuns were infected and quickly laid eggs in every corner of the monastery. Due to the absence of an important person in charge in the monastery at that time, this incident was not dealt with properly in the first place. A large number of nuns were invaded by the locusts and turned into nests. In 4 days, the monastery was almost turned into a nest of locusts. When the disaster spread to the small town, the town clerk and the special personnel in the town hall forcibly suppressed it. All the hell locusts were eliminated and the monastery was rebuilt. The locust girl who first led the locusts into the body was also completely killed by the clerk and hung at the main entrance of the monastery to warn any staff in the monastery not to go to the deepest forbidden area. Due to the death of a large number of staff in the monastery, the person in charge went missing. The mayor promoted a new person in charge of the monastery, ghost nun, Valaka. She appointed residents with demon attributes to help with the reconstruction of the monastery and temporarily looked after it. Within 3 months, the monastery's operations would be restored. From the description of the article, the Gates of Devils is not a portal to hell. Instead, it is a door that connects the monastery's front yard and the backyard. Perhaps there is a portal to hell somewhere in the backyard. In addition, there should be other dangerous existences in the backyard, which is listed as a forbidden area by the small town. By the way, isn't Pennywise a locust? The memory of his battle with Pennywise was still fresh in Han Dong's mind. Even if the clown could summon all kinds of items from his pocket and enlarge his body, the grasshopper's long legs on the clown's back was also a symbol. Let's use one day to prepare everything. Han Dong threw out a crow to monitor the situation and lay down on the bed to sleep. When he woke up, more than half of the first day had passed. It was the dawn of the second day. At this time, there was one more person in the room. Han Dong, who had just woken up, sensed the aura first and thought that the person in the room was a nun. After taking a closer look, he realized that it was Diana, who had just returned to her room after the church ceremony. After half a day of learning, Diana had completely assimilated into the role of a nun. The holy clothes and Diana's pure and young, delicate face gave Han Dong a completely different feeling. Compared to the demon nun here, she was more like a staff member in the monastery. Due to the long stare, Diana was a little embarrassed and turned her head away. Very good. You can even fool me. By the way, is Cass not back yet? No. Diana, sleep for a while. When Cass is back, we will depart. It's okay. When I train with the Black Rose Knights, I can last 4 days and 4 nights without sleep if I have a good rest. I won't feel any mental fatigue. Okay. An hour passed. Cass, who was panting, returned to the monastery. There were many strange auras on his body, and his clothes were torn in many places. He relied on the absolute defense of the Lionheart Knights to block the external attacks and was not injured. Just as Cass was about to complain about the difficulty of this task, Han Dong immediately stepped forward and patted Cass's sturdy back. You've worked hard. You might not be able to sleep for the next 2 days. Can you take it? If I can't take it, do you think I can wait for you outside? Sure. If there are any special situations, you can help us outside. It's okay. I can still take it for 2 days. Cass used his hair gel hand to lift up his hair, immediately revealing his energetic and handsome sunny side. Just like that, Han Dong led his 2 teammates to the ghost nun, explaining that the investigation in the front yard was basically completed and they needed to go to the sealed backyard. Due to the incident 3 years ago, the backyard has been listed as the absolute forbidden area in Dry Town. The patrolling staff in the backyard has all been removed, and the only entrance, the Devil's Gate, has been reinforced. The monastery will only conduct an inspection of the backyard on the first day of every month, led by me and at least 10 dark nuns. It has been 23 days since the last inspection. There might have been some changes in the backyard. Once you pass through the Devil's Gate, you will be classified as suspected locusts and will be quarantined for 24 hours after you come out. In addition, if you encounter any mishaps inside or don't respond within 48 hours, I will immediately treat you as dead and let the people from the town hall come and deal with you. Okay, follow me. The outstanding townsman who killed Dean Richard. Chapter 674. Devil's Gate, the only entrance that connected the front yard and the backyard. There was a line of words on the door. To hell, strangers must not enter. The surface of the door was engraved with the image of 2 demons reaching out to offer offerings. The offerings were in a missing state. When the heart-shaped pendant given to Han Dong by the ghost nun was embedded in the door, the seal was temporarily lifted and the door sank. Haha, perhaps it was because of Han Dong's strong perception. The moment he opened the door, Han Dong heard a burst of strange laughter. His teammates and the ghost nun did not have any change in expression. It seemed that Han Dong was the only one who could hear it. At the same time, in the air of the backyard, some fire from hell could be faintly seen. Obviously, somewhere in the backyard, there must be a portal that led to the depths of hell. It was the same type of fire emitted from Toga's body. The ghost nun with a mouth full of yellow teeth said, "Originally, I was going to accompany all of you to investigate the backyard. But because the hell locusts were found in the area of the monastery's gate and the cemetery, I need to continue monitoring the locust situation. The locust's daughter may also be hiding in a corner of the front yard. The backyard investigation will be left to all of you. I hope you can get rid of the resurrected locusts. If you succeed, I will also report your heroic deeds." Okay, before the ghost nun left, she gave one last reminder. "Oh, right. In the depths of the backyard, there is a secret room that ordinary people cannot see. Generally speaking, you will not encounter it. If you encounter it due to an accident, please leave immediately. That secret room is the top secret of Dry Town. It is also the monastery's forbidden area and the original place of origin of the hell locusts. Once you have any contact with the secret room, you will be directly handed over to the clerk for brainwashing. By the way, what are the characteristics of the secret room? How can we tell? The iron door that seals the secret room has the clerk's handprint. Understood. The locust's daughter that has been killed by the clerk will definitely not be able to return to her previous state, even if she can be resurrected. I hope you can bring back good news. Take good care of the heart pendant that I gave you and return within 48 hours. Once the time limit is exceeded, you will be locked inside." Boom. Ghost nun left and brought the gates of hell with her. Han Dong's little magic eye could see the intricate design of the door. The door was connected to the great formation of the monastery. If he wanted to forcefully break through the door, he would need to shake the entire monastery, including Valaka and the hundreds of demon nuns under him. It was basically impossible. A hidden chamber. When Sister Valaka exited the demon gate, her eyes were filled with astonishment. He immediately turned into a mass of darkness and left through the secret passage of the monastery. In a secret cave sheltered by plants among the cliffs, he met with a great personage who had come to the monastery. Facing the existence in the cave, the ghost nun lowered her head slightly. "Clerk, I have followed your instructions and led them into the Devil's Gate." That's right. It was really the scribe who came to the cave in the cliff to secretly meet with the monastery administrator. Countless arms had already attached themselves to the walls of the cave, isolating it from the outside world. No one knew what was going on here or what was being discussed. Ghost Sister Valaka was a member of the scribe from the very beginning. La la la. Well done. Since this group of people can find the secret hidden by Dean Richard in the Void Realm, they will inevitably touch the Forbidden Zone. Once they violate the ban, I will personally enter the backyard with the identity of the town hall supervisor and execute these little fellows reasonably and legally. The ghost nun didn't care about the death of this group of new residents at all. She only cared about the locusts. Scribe Funa, what do you think about the resurrection of the locusts? Since this townsfolk named Nicholas can decipher Dean Richard's conspiracy, it means that they have some ability. Maybe they can really remove the root of the locusts. At this time, all the arms in the cave began to shake back and forth, rejecting the nun's statement. It has never been possible to eradicate it. Since that part was stored in the monastery, it was destined to not be peaceful here. The meaning of the monastery and the existence of you nuns is to supervise that part to avoid what happened 3 years ago. As for why I want this group of people to die, it is because one of them had contact with disaster. Although the mayor doesn't think that they are potential danger, I absolutely won't allow them to live in the town. Their arrival has already caused the town to become abnormal. If they're allowed to move freely in the town and investigate that matter, it will lead to a disaster more troublesome than 3 years ago. Yes, cloister, backyard, inner court. A whole body pierced through with iron wires, the flesh on its face twisted together. Only its bloody mouth was exposed as a crawling life. In the situation where its head and heart were pierced by white bones, it still showed a strong vitality. Han Dong immediately waved his hand, using high-density yellow sand to firmly suppress this demon's life. He reached out and touched its twisted head. Han Dong felt a familiar scorching aura of hell. It belonged to the same kind of demon as Togu. Togu, is absorbing this thing useful for your recovery of strength? Yes. This is a demon that completely failed in its pursuit of the Tao in hell. It will be entangled in pain for the rest of its life. There's indeed a part of the scorching aura of hell in its body, but it is useless for my recovery. Only the essence of pain can help me recover. Backyard, so familiar. I seem to have stayed here for a long time before. Yes. You still can't recover your memories? Yes. 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 Don't worry. Leave it to me. Yes. Han Dong held the ugly demon in one hand. Caw! It was like a black crow flashing in front of his eyes. Death invasion. In a short time, the demon turned into a pile of ashes. Han Dong did not use a syringe. It was impossible to obtain high-quality cell essence from the body of this inferior demon. Looks like the hell portal in the backyard has a serious leakage situation. The monastery uses a method of cleaning once a month to eliminate the leaking demons from the inside. Relying on just a door to block it, sooner or later something will happen. Hey, this is too much, Han Dong said as he walked around a corner. He was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. The spacious passage was crowded with all kinds of suffering demons. Some were bound by iron and could only wriggle on the ground. Some had chains pierced through their bodies and could only move extremely slowly. Their faces were all scorched, completely distorted, or penetrated by strange metal substances. There were at least 20 of them piled up. Humanoid disfigurement. According to Togu, these were demons that had chosen hell to seek the Tao, but failed in the end. But Han Dong did not expect that just because there was a gap in hell in the monastery, there would be so many failed seekers piled up here. Then how many lamentable demons were there in hell? With such a high failure rate, why would they choose hell to seek the Tao? Togu gave an answer at this time. Because of power. In hell, those without power can only become food for other demons. Yes. Chapter 675. Just as Han Dong and the others stepped on the corpses of the failed Tao seekers and went deeper into the cloister, the Dragon City team, who were one step behind, finally succeeded in pushing the main plot forward. With Yu Wu's eye, he found the weaknesses of countless puppets and let Hua Zipping destroy them one by one, without the help of any external objects. Just like how he killed the clown back then, Hua Zipping spent 3 days and 3 nights to kill all the puppets in neighborhood Mary Shaw. The strength and dominance that Hua Zipping displayed even made Mary Shaw feel a trace of fear. She stared at Hua Zipping, who was emitting true chi from his body, and hung the blade with the dragon shadow in front of the last perfect puppet. Mary Shaw stuck out her swollen and twisted long tongue and sighed. You guys are really powerful, especially your strength. You're almost on par with the 10 demons. Maybe you can really kill Pennywise. When he heard the name of the clown, Hua Zipping didn't kill her for the time being. Instead, he let Yu Wu cast a spell to temporarily bind Mary Shaw and interrogate her on the spot. How much do you know about Pennywise? Hee. You're currently working for the woman in the town hall, so you should naturally know about the clown. This is a secret that Dry Town doesn't want to talk about. I don't know a little. I even came into contact with Pennywise personally. But why should I tell you? Hua Zipping replied calmly. None of your puppets are residents of the city. All of them are wooden puppets that you made yourself, and then you imprison the souls of some ordinary people in them. In other words, you didn't kill any residents of Dry Town. I'm guessing that the reason you became a fugitive might have something to do with the clown, and we can kill him. During the battle with Mary Shaw, the old puppet woman had mentioned the clown's name many times with resentment. Therefore, Hua Zipping came to such a conclusion as the key to the negotiation. Ha ha ha. All right, I'll tell you some secrets. 3 years ago, when Pennywise was captured by the clerk at the connection point, he seemed to have completed most of his plans in the outside world ahead of time. When the mayor noticed the clown's abnormality, he immediately executed the clown. The first step was to absorb souls and harvest them with the sigh of the dry town. His consciousness was branded with Dean Richards' void imprint, and his consciousness was annihilated at the starlight level. In the end, the most brutal butcher in Dry Town executed the clown. The clown's body was divided into 5 parts and placed in the 5 safest and most dangerous areas of Dry Town. The 5 parts were then guarded by the powerful residents. Even so, disaster still came. The areas where the 5 bodies were stored all suffered different kinds of terrifying disasters. It led to the deaths of at least 3 residents, and a large number of ordinary workers were seriously mutated. Due to this, Dry Town stopped operating for almost a month. On the death list was my most beloved husband, who was also my most perfect doll. I vowed to kill this clown and find out that part of his body was buried in the Crystal Lake. However, when I found his left leg, I couldn't destroy it no matter how hard I tried. I even saw a bright red mouth grow on the surface of the left leg. It laughed crazily at me and even urged me to kill it. Ha ha! At this point, the puppet, Mary Shaw, suddenly lowered her head and laughed strangely. The atmosphere changed. The light bulbs in the tunnel that had been cut off for a long time began to flicker, reflecting a strange red light. The air was filled with an aura that Hua Zipping was familiar with. "Captain, something is wrong. Hurry up and kill her." The tunnel illuminated by the red light made Yu Wu's hair stand on end. Wait, Hua Zipping trusted the dragon-patterned sword in his hand. As long as the old woman had any intention of attacking or escaping, the blade would instantly cut through her head. Hua Zipping was waiting, because there was one thing he didn't understand. Why did Mary Shaw kill any residents? Why was she wanted by the town hall as a fugitive who had violated the ban and must be killed just because she touched the clown's body? He seemed to be able to get the answer immediately. Ha ha! The old woman with her head lowered couldn't help but laugh. The rhythm and frequency continued to increase. From the initial snickering, it slowly evolved into a crazed laughter. It was so wild that the old woman's body couldn't bear it. Smack! She laughed so hard that her trachea exploded. Because her trachea exploded, her neck tilted backward. The old woman slowly raised her head. Her saggy and wrinkled face was smeared with a large amount of red dye. Perhaps it was red blood that seeped out from her pores, forming a bright red mouth that was similar to the clown's. Ha! Blurg! The laughter stopped, as if something was stuck in her throat. Her mouth was wide open, and something was about to come out of her throat. It looked like a red balloon, but there were some small grasshopper legs around it. Whoosh! After getting the answer, Hua Zipping no longer hesitated. He beheaded her with a single slash. Fugitive, puppet demon, Mary Shaw has been killed. The first main quest has been completed. Please return to the town hall to receive the reward for the main quest. Her consciousness dissipated. Mary Shaw's last puppet turned into a crudely made wooden puppet and fell to the ground. However, a strange larval insect body fell out from the head that was cut open by the sword. It looked like a combination of a balloon and an insect. There were more than 10 grasshopper legs on the surface of the balloon that hadn't been inflated yet. If they hadn't killed it in time, this thing might have grown using the puppet demon's body and soul as nourishment. No wonder all the residents who came into contact with the clown were wanted by the town hall. As expected, the difficulty of the inner chapter has been increased. The clown can spread the laughter virus through a special method. Even the most powerful residents of the city would be infected. Once they fell into a weakened state and thought about the clown, the laughter virus hidden in their bodies might erupt. I'm afraid only the 10 demons are unaffected. The clown that was split into 5 parts should be buried in the territory guarded by the 10 demons. It's really difficult to achieve a perfect ending. Hua Zipping and Yu Wu carried the damaged puppet as evidence and drove back to Dry Town. While driving, Yu Wu, who was exhausted from the long battle, couldn't fall asleep because of the familiar laughter just now. His mind kept thinking about the secret that Mary Shaw had explained. Suddenly, Yuwu noticed a problem. "Captain, why are there 5 parts? If the body was really split, just the hands and legs alone would be 4 parts. Considering the clown's strangeness and danger, the head and torso should also be separated. In total, there should be 6 parts, right? Let's go back and discuss it." Chapter 676. As Hua Zipping and the others returned to the town hall to submit the main mission, they successfully passed the second stage of the inner chapter. Han Dong had already gone deep into the backyard area. The passage was filled with the broken limbs of failed cultivators. Han Dong was too lazy to collect these low-level cell essences. Cass walked to the front, carrying the heavy cold iron rampart with one hand to open the way. At the same time, he also picked up the iron chain from the body of certain cultivator and wrapped it around his free arm. At the right time, he would attack with his fist. His weapon had been completely shattered during the battle with Miles. The difficulty here was still okay for the 3 of them. They did not feel too much pressure. He didn't encounter any hell cultivator like Togu, although such failures had extraordinary HP and endurance. In front of Han Dong's domain of death, once their vital points were touched, death would immediately spread through their entire body, and they would die quickly. If they did not die, they could just add another tentacle attack. After passing through 3 corners in a row, an unusually wide passage appeared in front of them. Its width was more than 5 times that of the previous passage. Its width was about the same as some roads in the city. The number of fire cores floating in the air had also increased significantly. There was also a thin stream of magma flowing in the middle of the passage. It seemed that the source of the magma was the entrance to hell. Moreover, it also led to the monastery in hell. The failed cultivators they encountered along the way, as well as Togu, had all come from there. Once they could find the entrance, Togu would be able to recover. One of Han Dong's goals for this trip to the monastery would be achieved. "Shall we go?" Cass asked. "Wait, something is coming out." In the passage where ashes were floating, a nun slowly walked out from the depths. Her upper body was indeed that of a nun with decent looks, but when her lower body appeared, it made people feel a little uncomfortable. The nun held her hands in a praying position and slowly crawled out from the depths. Her lower body was actually a locust body. It had sparkling and translucent forelegs and a pair of strong and powerful black hind legs that were specially used for jumping. The surface of the locust was also covered with large amounts of magma patterns. To some extent, it was similar to Togu, but it was definitely not a true cultivator. Hell locust! At the first moment she saw the enemy, Diana had already shot out 4 sharp-boned spurs. However, the nun suddenly widened her eyes that were like molten nuclei. Her dark black grasshopper legs exerted force at the same time, and her body soared into the air to avoid the bone spikes. Then, she leaped continuously between the tunnels at super fast speeds. Almost within a second, it arrived in front of Han Dong and the others. Smack, the nun opened her mouth and shot out a tongue that resembled an aberration from a sci-fi movie, aiming straight for Diana. Clang! At the critical moment, Aid, one of the basic knight skills of the Lionheart Knights, lock onto a teammate. It could instantly burst out with 200% speed and appear beside a teammate, providing a strong and powerful protection. His muscles swelled, and there were even some layers of rock on the surface of his skin. What followed was a shield bash. Pa! It was a direct hit, and the nun was sent flying. Boom! He crashed heavily into the rock wall on one side, and his body was completely embedded in it. Cooperate! Diana followed Cass's attack closely. With a twist of her heel, she used the advanced physical technique of the Night Watchers, instant step, and instantly closed in on the target. The nun, who was still a little dazed from the shield bash, had no time to climb out of the wall. She was met with a flying kick from Diana, which landed heavily on the nun's abdomen. Boom! The nun's body sank even deeper into the wall, and her movements were limited because she was stuck in the wall. Combo palm. Diana naturally had no intention of letting this go. At the same time as she kicked out, bright white bone spurs grew between her palms, and, at this moment, she launched a frontal attack with super fast speed. At the same time that the bone spurs pierced through the nun's body, the force of her palm followed closely. It was equivalent to causing physical damage in the form of piercing and impact, which completely shattered the structure of the nun's body. In the process of the combo palm bombardment, the nun's lava-like demon body fluid flowed along the wall. Obviously, this series of continuous attacks had caused her intrinsic damage. At this moment, Diana instinctively withdrew her attack and lowered her head to dodge. The transparent grasshopper's front legs were like sickles, and in the next second, it brushed past Diana's head. Hell's life forms, especially the type of demons involved in the monastery. Each and every one of them is like a cockroach that can't be killed. She is obviously riddled with holes, but she can still launch a normal counterattack. Han Dong immediately connected, deeply activating the G-virus and grabbing the nun's legs, pulling them with all his might. Under the full power of the G-virus, he pulled out several of the nun's front legs one after another. Whoosh! Diana then produced a sharp bone blade and cut off the nun's most powerful black hind legs. After abolishing her ability to move clang, a metal chain shot out from Han Dong's arm, pointing directly at the nun's body. As the metal chain completely drilled into the nun's body began to melt little by little. It turned into traces of lava essence that were absorbed by the metal chain. Togu, is it effective? Yes. It is effective, but very little. Although there is a small amount of hell's lava flowing in the body of this locust, it is not a demon by nature. It should be a hybrid between a demon and another species. Even if part of my memory is sealed, there is no way I would not recognize a hell's life form with attributes similar to mine. Yes, along with the absorption of energy, the nun's body gradually weakened. All of a sudden, Han Dong sensed a familiar sensation. It was as if there was a virus lurking in the nun's body that had completely erupted while her body was weak, eroding her body. Ha 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 ha. Laughter. Crazy laughter came out from the nun's mouth. Her face was dyed with bright and exaggerated red lips at some point. Han Dong and Count's consciousness in his body both sensed this similar attribute at the same time, crazy laughter. Ha ha ha. Nicholas, you are absolutely right. In this small world, there really is the same kind of crazy laughter as mine. Moreover, this kind of crazy laughter has a stronger bias and can affect other species. I finally know what you are thinking. No wonder you are in such a hurry to get here. Ha ha ha. Count was excited. A blood dog's head quickly formed and swallowed the madly laughing nun in front of it. This scene also shocked Cass and Diana, who were not far behind them. After all, such a blood dog could cause visual pollution to both of them. Crunch, 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 the blood dog chewed its big mouth, swallowed, and digested, allowing Count to taste an extremely small amount of the blood of crazy laughter. Count's consciousness also began to laugh crazily because of the long-awaited joy and excitement. It also caused Han Dong to let out the same crazy laughter. Ha ha! The laughter echoed in the empty passage and immediately received a response from the many nuns. One by one, the nuns with red lips and grasshopper-like bodies crawled out from the depths. Some of the nuns were even more than 3 meters tall. Nicholas, hurry up and kill your way in. The clown you speak of must be in the deepest part. Chapter 677. Cass stared at the Locust sisters who were laughing maniacally with bright red lipstick marks on their faces. He immediately turned to look at Han Dong. Don't tell me these things have something to do with the clown. Han Dong nodded. Yes, I only planned to come to the monastery to recover my strength. I didn't expect to find the right direction. I'm going to charge into the deepest part of the monastery. If we want to achieve a perfect ending to the inner chapter, the answer lies in the deepest part of the monastery. Everyone just go all out. Cass, you'll be in charge, taunt, and take the damage. Okay. Cass activated his territory. A large number of rock layers appeared on the surface of his body, and some rock fragments floated in the air. The territory could greatly increase Cass' physical defense and help his teammates within a certain range to take the most damage. Diana. This group of Locust Sisters is not as strong as the residents of the city, but their attributes are not bad, especially their ability to take a beating and their vitality. It's a good opportunity for you to familiarize yourself with the use of the mutated demons. You use to control your body together with the mutated demons in your body. Today is a good chance for you to try fighting alone. Okay, I'll try. Diana nodded. At the same time, she placed a hand on her shoulder and slowly adjusted the heretical power in her body. A large number of Locust Sisters infected with the clown virus crawled out from the depths and were about to collide with the group. The epic staff, Raven, was summoned. Han Dong touched the ground with the staff and ordered, "Kill them all. Leave no one alive." Caw! The Raven at the end of the staff came alive. Using his staff, Han Dong cast an AoE black magic spell, Black Sand Burial, which consumed a lot of energy. It was accompanied by waves of black ripples that spread out. In an instant, the ground began to loosen and turned into a black desert. Not only that, the Locust Sisters who stood in the black desert will be devoured by the quicksand, trying to bury them under the black sand before being devoured by death. Caw! 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 At the same time, Han Dong released a large number of ravens to peck at the bodies of the Locust Sisters. He separated them from each other by means of interference and separated them into individual units so that they could be harvested by the team members. Let's go. Han Dong had already created an absolutely advantageous opening. Cass wore a smile on his face. The faint image of a golden lion could be seen floating behind him as it charged towards the nearest group of nuns. Diana covered her face as if she still wasn't quite used to it. Soft bone spikes spilled out from all over her body, floating in the air like tentacles. Hybrid demonization. Without relying on the help of the hybrid demons in her body, Diana had succeeded, but her appearance had changed. Half of a white bone mask formed on his face, covering his mouth and only revealing his white eyes. Whoosh! His speed was twice as fast as usual. His main hand was still a bone spike attack. However, something happened to his secondary hand. The bone spikes that grew out of it started to stack, increase in density, and soften. It had unintentionally transformed into a rather terrifying bone whip. The density of the bone whips was extremely high, reaching a length of nearly 2 meters. On the surface, there were small spikes of about 2 to 3 centimeters. It made Han Dong feel pain just by looking at them. Pa! As the whip lashed down, black sand flew everywhere. It directly caused a nun to disintegrate. There was no such thing as rebirth at all. This Sister Diana is quite reliable. Next, let's get ready to go. The Wee Han Dong mentioned was naturally his small team. Another reason for releasing a large number of crows was that he didn't want Cass and Diana to see his team members. Whoosh! Crow feather bone wings formed. Han Dong turned into a black shadow and instantly passed by the few nuns in front of him. He went deeper into the tunnel and started the massacre from the inside. A kitchen knife with evil energy wrapped around it. An iron chain with hell's lava. And 8 pink tentacles of an octopus. In terms of lethality, Nicole was naturally the most terrifying. It was like the plot of Mist. The huge octopus monster in the thick fog indiscriminately slaughtered the human survivors and other fog monsters in the small town. Any nun that was entangled by Nicole would be corroded in a short time, turning into a puddle of stinky seawater mixture. As for Han Dong, in his metamorphosis state, he allowed Count to control the dog head made of tentacles to crazily bite, gnaw, and swallow the group of nuns that had been infected by the laughing virus and were incurable. Nicholas, hurry up and collect some strange essence to add the void ability to the tentacles. I really want to try this void ability from Waja. Don't worry, I think there will be residents coming to give me the essence soon. Because Count had confirmed the existence of another type of laughter He became abnormally active, as if he had been injected with stimulants. Seeing that his team's killing speed had exceeded his expectations, Han Dong did not continue to attack. He slowly focused his gaze on the front, trying to peek into the deepest part of the tunnel, the darkest corner of the cloister, and the real entrance to Hell's portal. Han Dong's distinguishing ability allowed him to hear the different laughter among the hundreds of laughter in the tunnel. It came from the unique voice of the clown. Pennywise were finally going to meet outside the cloister in the cave on the cliff. Ghost nun Waraka hurried here because Han Dong and the other's speed far exceeded her expectations. Lord Clerk, they have reached the middle depth of the backyard. I estimate that they will touch the forbidden area soon. It's much faster than I expected. Should we go now? La la la, while singing, an arm quickly stretched out, directly ignoring the ghost nun's skull, and went straight into the brain area to retrieve the memory. Oh, these little things are really fast. As expected of the little bravest who dared to confront director Richard head-on, hee. Let's go. For a moment, all the arms attached to the wall of the cave began to swim and gather together to construct the body of the clerk. Singing a little song, he headed towards the cloister from the mountain tunnel. Ghost Nun added, "Clerk, don't you need to bring the killing team from the town hall?" When asking this question, the clerk suddenly stopped and turned his head 180 degrees on his neck to look at the ghost nun behind him. "Are you doubting my strength? Do you think I can't kill these new residents?" As soon as the words came out, Ghost Nun was so scared that her face turned black and she trembled. "No one can survive in the hands of the clerk. I will definitely cooperate with Lord Clerk to eliminate this group of suspected to be infected with the laughter disease." The clerk seemed to be temperamental. Suddenly, he revealed a cute smile. "Among the three of them, there's a thin man who is my target. You are not allowed to interfere. I will definitely obey Lord Clerk's arrangements." Chapter 678. Due to his excitement, Count was completely immersed in the slaughter. The advanced tentacle technique, isomerization, bloodhound, was extremely lethal to the monsters in the Destiny realm. It could basically kill one locust nun at a time. The wounds torn by the bloodhound were difficult to heal. Bloodstains would even form between the wounds, giving the victim an injury amplification effect. At the same time, Diana, who was undergoing metamorphosis with her own consciousness for the first time, was also getting stronger as she fought. She relied on her own talent to quickly adapt to this power from outside the city. However, she was different from Han Dong. As time went by, the side effects of metamorphosis soon appeared on Diana's body. Even if the synchronization rate was only 5%, a lot of white lines appeared around her eyes. Some parts of her body were undergoing some irreversible ossification. Some parts of her body even grew white tentacles that were wriggling in the air. If this continued for a long time, Diana would face a situation where she would not be able to return to her human form. Diana's metamorphosis only lasts for 1 to 2 minutes. If the synchronization rate is higher, the duration of the transformation will be shorter. If she needs to fight the 10 demons or fight with the Dragon City team in the later stages, the time will be a problem. However, Cass seems to be hiding something. He has been trying to conserve his energy as much as possible from the beginning. When he was sent to deliver the letter, he was almost unharmed. It seems that the Secret Stone incident really improved Cass a lot. After all, there are very few knights in the Holy City who can use metamorphosis. Cass's talent is not bad. His father is a writer, and Cass's brain is not weak at all. I hope that in the later stages, when I encounter dangerous situations that I can't predict, Cass can stand up and support me. The nuns in the passage were gradually emptied. Since the demonic essence in the nuns' bodies was not very useful to Count, basically all the nuns became Count's food. He absorbed as much laughter virus as possible for Count to use. Just like that, when the crows that crowded the passage dispersed, all the anomalies returned to the body. Kill count comparison. Cass, 1 Diana, 21 Han Dong. 89 The place where Han Dong stood was the center of the swirling black sand. All the broken limbs of the locusts were cleaned up. Such a scene made Diana's little sister feel a little admiration. Let's go. Han Dong had no intention of stopping. He went against the flow of lava and led the team to the deepest part of the monastery. He felt a sense of urgency, as if he was about to reunite with an old friend. He couldn't wait to see how his old friend had changed in the past 3 years. He wanted to talk about the joy of meeting each other, and then completely take one of them for himself. They went in for a full 10 minutes. As the air temperature gradually increased, when it reached about 61 degrees Celsius, the thick lava completely lit up the entire tunnel. The group had reached the deepest part of the monastery, and the secret room that the ghost nun spoke of was right in front of them. The dark blue cold iron gate almost occupied the entire passageway. There was even a scribe's handprint on it, and it was connected to the backyard. Without the key, it was impossible to open the door from the front. Streams of lava also flowed out slowly from under the door. Some tiny locust eggs were hidden in the lava and were slowly gestating. Obviously, the portal to hell and the origin of the locust plague were hidden behind this door. Once they entered, he would be able to complete the investigation task given by the mayor. He would be able to use the portal to return to the monastery in hell and recover his strength. He would be able to fulfill his old friend's wish of not reuniting. Nicholas. Cass was a little worried. He put a hand on Han Dong's shoulder. Cass, you and Diana can wait for me outside the door. Leave the things inside to me. Also, I have some personal matters to settle. Be careful. When he first stepped into the monastery, the succubus nun gave him the key to the bedroom. It was currently in Han Dong's hands. The ancient bronze key fit perfectly into the door lock. At the beginning, the succubus nun's words were all to get Han Dong to cross the Devil's Gate and go deep into the backyard to find this secret room. As for the source of the key, Han Dong guessed that when the locust plague first happened, the daughter of the locust had tried to get the template of the key. All these years, she had been gestating through her body. It took her 3 years to gestate the perfect key, complete her rebirth, and wait for the key person. The key person is me. Pennywise knows very well that as long as he gives me the key, I will definitely find the door corresponding to the key. It feels a little like back then. The key turned, click. A heat wave from hell hit him in the face. However, for Han Dong, who had Tugu in his body, this temperature was nothing. Tugu, I'll borrow your chain. Although Han Dong and Tugu had a master-servant relationship, he could still borrow the servant's tools to a certain extent. This Hell's chain from Hell's monastery was not just a weapon. It could also be used as an embedded form of equipment that penetrated the body. Hell's chain, embedded, requires the user to endure a high degree of pain. Once embedded successfully, it will increase the physical defense, double resistance, increase the individual's heat resistance, and give the individual the devil attribute. Can enjoy the bonus of the devil attribute in certain environments. Clang. The chains drilled in and out of Han Dong's thin body. Physical pain was nothing to a creature like Han Dong, who mainly relied on his brain. Ignoring the scorching heat of hell, his vision slowly adapted to the bright room. The whole room was covered with lava stripes. The origin of all the stripes was the portal to hell, a 1.5 m diameter lava entrance, similar to a small volcanic crater. At the same time, the room was also filled with a large number of hooked chains that hung a strange torso in the air. A total of 18 hooks were connected to this torso. The surface of the torso was printed with a red pattern in the form of a vortex. On the back were 6 strong grasshopper legs that Han Dong was familiar with. As the devil monster from Hell's Gate came through the portal to this world, one of the legs would be inserted into its body and injected with the essence of the locusts, turning it into a locust carrier and infected with the laughter virus. All of this was recorded by Han Dong so that he could report to the mayor. Pennywise, I haven't seen you in 3 years, right? I didn't expect your life here to be so comfortable. Ha ha. Strange laughter came from inside the body, causing each chain to tremble wildly. With the resonance of the chains, the laughter spread to every corner of the room and attacked Han Dong at the same time like needles. However, ha ha ha, Han Dong also laughed at the same time, mixed with overlapping sounds. It seemed that there were two people laughing at the same time. This scene was quite strange. The laughter reverberated and even caused the resonance of the chains to intensify. Crack, 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 the chains all shook and broke. Chapter 679. A Battle of Laughter. After all, this was not the clown's complete body. In the end, it ended with Han Dong suppressing the clown's torso. This result also caused the clown's torso to overflow with a large amount of sweat. The grasshopper's long legs on his back trembled violently, and the spiral red mark on his abdomen slowly rotated. Why? Do you have... What? You infected me with the virus. Can I treat the symptoms? In this world, you're not the only one with a crazy laughter attribute. Unfortunately, your main head isn't here. Otherwise, it would be even more interesting. As the torso was completely suppressed at the moment, Han Dong's voice immediately transmitted to the portable prison. Togu, you go first. Okay. Iron chains shot out from Han Dong's body directly to the Hell's teleportation gate. They hooked to the other side of Hell and dragged Toga back to Hell. He was about to receive painful whippings from the priest in the monastery, as well as various painful rehabilitation exercises. Next, let's reminisce about the past. Pennywise. The black sand formed a bench. Han Dong sat down directly in front of the clown's torso, and the raven's staff hung by his side. Outside the door, even though there was a barrier between them, Diana and Cass could still hear the reverberating laughter coming from inside. Compared to the piercing laughter, another kind of laughter made the two of them feel refreshed. Just when the two of them did not quite understand what was going on inside, there was a slight tremor between the ground and the wall. They had also felt this tremor when they came to the backyard. It was also the reaction caused by the opening of the Devil's Gate that connected the front yard and the backyard. The Devil's Gate is open. Someone is coming. Cass recalled the day before when Han Dong asked him to deliver a letter, combined with the current situation where a group of people suddenly broke into the backyard. Immediately connecting the two key clues, Cass immediately reacted, smelling the dangerous aura in it. The worst outcome that Nicholas predicted seems to have happened. Diana, let's hide first. Realizing the problem, Cass immediately led Diana to hide in a dark room at the side of the passage. Boom, boom, boom. He continuously punched the wall at the back of the room, creating a huge dent. As the two of them hid inside, Cass used the hybrid demon's ability in his body for the first time to establish a connection with the stone attribute. He used the stone that had just been smashed to restore the wall to its original state. It was perfectly hidden within the wall, and no aura leaked out. In less than 3 minutes, La La La, a cheerful and joyful song pierced through the door and the stone wall, clearly reaching their ears. Even though the two of them had never been to the town hall and had never seen the clerk. However, when they heard this song, their reaction was the same as when Han Dong first heard it. The most primitive sense of danger made their bodies tremble and their eyes flashed with fear. Even so, Diana still acted as if she was going to do battle. Cass immediately stopped her. Don't move now. Nicholas has already considered the current situation and should have a way to deal with it. We'll wait until the conflict fully erupts before launching a sneak attack from behind. The effect will be better. If we go out now, there's only a slim chance of survival. The song reverberated in the passage. So the Locust sisters who were not completely killed had their heads swollen when they heard the song. In the end, the pressure in the cranial cavity exceeded the critical value, and the locust sap scattered everywhere. Following the arrival of the clerk, densely packed arms appeared, and the first thing they did was to occupy the area. The slender arms that were like Boston ivy grew rapidly in the passage, and there was no space between the arms. Wherever the clerk passed by, the arms would cover the area and turn it into her territory. Before the matter was settled, no one was allowed to leave. The spectral nun, Valaka, also followed by her side. Dark energy gathered around her body, and she planned to show off her skills in front of the clerk and kill all the related personnel, except for Han Dong. Had they gone in? Hearing some laughter coming from behind the iron door, the clerk's attention was completely attracted. She did not notice Cass and Diana, who were hiding in a dark room at the side. The spectral nun stared at the cold iron door that had traces of opening and closing, and revealed her yellow teeth in surprise. How is this possible? There is only one key, and the key to the secret room is with me. The spectral nun guided the dark energy into her body and took out the key hidden in her stomach. Throughout the whole process, her body was trembling, as if she was afraid that the clerk would blame her. The clerk, however, had a sick smile on her face, and her lips were raised to an exaggerated degree. Very good. Approaching the forbidden area and entering it are two different crimes. Such a crime is enough to put him on the list of wanted fugitives. There is no need to go through any legal channels. Just kill him directly. Open the door. I will take care of everything. You're only responsible for guarding the door. Don't let the virus invade you, or I will have to kill one more person. Yes, the spectral nun summoned all the dark energy to defend against the virus that might spread through the air. She secretly decided that she must wear an effective antivirus mask when she went out in the future. Click, the door opened a crack. The scribe couldn't wait any longer and quickly drilled his body into it. Clerk, you are here. Han Dong had already turned his face to the door and sat on a self-made stool. His legs were open at 90 degrees, and his fingers were crossed between his legs, as if he was waiting for the clerk's arrival. As for the body, it was nowhere to be found. The clerk who came into the secret room also stretched out her head to look around, but she could not find the body of Locust Disaster. For a moment, 10 arms grabbed Han Dong at the same time, ready to torture him after suppressing him. Ta! The Raven Staff was used and hit the ground hard. Death domain 100%. At the same time, the domain was compressed to half a meter in width. The dense death aura could even slow down the collision of molecules in the air. When the clerk's arm touched the surface of the domain, it immediately began to rapidly turn into sand and wither. But there was still an arm that broke through the defense and went straight for Han Dong's head. But when it touched Han Dong's hair, the arm also completely withered and disintegrated. Han Dong looked calm, but in fact he was so scared that his back was full of cold sweat. If he was really touched by the arm, his life might be in danger. The clerk's lethality was definitely the most terrible in town. It was also because of this that Han Dong won time for negotiation. Where did the body go? The clerk's words were slightly anxious. If I said that I've already cleaned it up, would you believe me? No one can clean up the disaster. It seems that I can only take you back for interrogation. Just as the clerk was about to make a move, there was a slight tremor on the ground. The Devil's Gate opened, and an uninvited guest entered the backyard area. Chapter 680. It was the 10th demon, Moonlight Miles, who Cass had sent the letter to the day before. However, Miles was not the only one who had crossed the Devil's Gate and entered the monastery's backyard. Coincidentally, Cass had sent the letter in time for the human-demon party in Drytown. This was also the reason why Cass took a day to deliver the letter to Miles and why his clothes were in tatters. Jason, Leatherface, and Freddy, who had just gotten off work from the lumberyard, were all at the party, and the scene was quite exciting. To prevent the party from being blown up, here is a simple description of the wine barrel used in the human-demon party. As for the other party facilities and scenes, you can imagine for yourselves. The demonic humans were all good drinkers and had unique tastes, so the design of the wine barrel was handed over to Freddy, who was clever and skillful. A pig had to be forcefully fed until it weighed more than 400 pounds. Then, the pig's body had to be hollowed out without damaging the outer skin, and high-quality wood was added inside as a fixing device to make a perfect living wine barrel. This kind of wine barrel was bigger, and the wheat wine it contained had a unique taste, which was quite suitable for the demonic humans. As for the letter Han Dong wrote to Miles, the content was very interesting. Han Dong was sure that the clown had become the public enemy of Dry Town because of the disaster he had brought upon the town. In the letter, Han Dong wrote that he had found part of the clown in the monastery and had a way to completely kill him, but he needed Miles's help. Miles was not very smart, but he knew how powerful Han Dong was. Even Dean Richard, who was the closest to God, could be tricked and pushed to the limit. In the Void Hospital incident, Han Dong gave the opportunity to kill Dean Richard to Miles so that his evil spirit could absorb the Void attribute, and he was successfully promoted to the new 10th demon. Miles owed Boss Han a big favor. Seeing the yellow stamp left by Han Dong at the end of the letter, Miles decided to end his vacation early and continue to work for Han Dong. However, Miles had to attend the Human Demon Party that was held once a month. In a way, this party was also a celebration for him becoming one of the 10 demons. Thus, Miles went to the party in advance to give his friends an explanation. Due to his ability to not get drunk after 1,000 cups, he managed to get quite a few human demons drunk at the table. Just as Miles was about to take this opportunity to rush to work, he was immediately stopped by the other members of the 4 great devils. The 4 great human demons have a very good relationship in private due to their commonalities. After Miles explained the situation, the 3 drunken companions also expressed their support and were willing to take the risk of being infected by the laughter virus to accompany Miles to the monastery. That was it. The third batch of people who came to monastery were the famous 4 demonic demons of Dry Town. Han Dong also considered sending the letter to other people, such as Sam, Miss Jane, or the mayor. However, the monastery incident also involved some issues of power and interests. If the matter involved the clerk, who was only the mayor, it would be difficult for Sam and Miss Jane to deal with. As for the mayor, it was just a mission assigned to Han Dong. There was no contact between the two of them, and when it came to the clerk, there was no way to determine how the mayor would stand. Only Miles was the most reliable. Rumble. There was a violent tremor in the backyard. The Devil's Gate was forcefully opened by a group of people. Because the whole structure was interconnected, it even caused a serious structural collapse in the front yard. The ghost nun who was in charge of guarding the gate, who was also the current manager of the monastery, opened her yellow demonic eyes wide and wanted to see what was going on. However, she also had to stay here to prevent other infected people from escaping. The clerk's order is more important. Eliminating the infected people is the most important thing. Ghost nun Valaka. She didn't come from the burning hell, but was promoted by the mayor from another small world. She was originally a person who was possessed by a demon. After being completely possessed by a demon from the dark hell, she became the current her. Village resident ranking. Number 21. The darker the area, the more powerful she was. She believed in Satanism and had a strong ability to cultivate followers, so she could efficiently obtain reliable dark nuns. It was also because of this that she became the clerk's lackey. Due to the disappearance of the monastery's manager, the clerk proposed to the mayor to let her temporarily be in charge of the monastery's related work. I must perform well. The ghost nun had already condensed a high concentration of darkness between her fingers, ready to kill the young people who escaped from the secret room at any time. However, as the Devil's Gate was forcefully demolished, in the passage leading to the secret room, there were 4 heavy footsteps. At the same time, it was accompanied by the sound of a diesel chainsaw engine and the squeaking sound of iron claws scraping the wall. After a while, the 4 outstanding workers of Dry Town arrived. As a human and a demon, the evil aura that they emitted together made the ghost nun tremble. It was as if the passage was filled with flowing and stacked meat that could drown her at any time. Miles walked at the front, maintaining a silent image, as if to say, "Let me in, my boss is inside. The clerk is dealing with the infected people in the secret room. No one is allowed to enter." The ghost nun just finished her warning. A ray of moonlight flashed in front of her. The blade had already cut her head. The moonlight mark was branded on it. In the secret room, when she sensed that another group of people had arrived at the backyard, the clerk was not anxious at all. In her eyes, Han Dong had violated the ban of Dry Town, so he was already a dead man. Except for the mayor, No one in the town could stop her. Han Dong compressed the range of the domain of death to the smallest extent possible, trying to stall for time through communication. Clerk, I'm here under the mayor's orders to investigate a strange phenomenon in the monastery. If I violated the law, please let the mayor judge me personally. Here, let's not be in a hurry to make a move, okay? Carrot asterisk, carrot asterisk. Lala, that won't do. You're someone who had close contact with the clown, so you must have been infected. We must kill you completely before you come into contact with the other townspeople. As for the investigation results in your hands, I'll take you to the mayor. Han Dong asked tentatively. Anyone who has come into contact with the clown can be killed directly without going through legal procedures. There's no need to come into contact with the clown. Anyone who comes close to this secret room will be classified as violating the ban and suspected of being infected. In order to eliminate all hidden dangers, we only need to kill them directly. Oh, if anyone who comes close to the secret room will be killed, then you may have a lot of work to do tonight, clerk. After Han Dong finished speaking, a bloodhound hidden behind him suddenly bit the clerk. 100 hands in one swish. The bloodhound was forcefully torn apart, and its dismembered tentacles scattered all over the ground. Using the time bought by the bloodhound, Han Dong had successfully bypassed the clerk and escaped from the secret room. Trying to run? Hundreds of arms crawled under the clerk's long skirt. They carried her quickly out of the secret room. Bang! As soon as she went out, she bumped into something hard. She looked down and saw a pair of huge leather shoes. She looked up. Demon possession. Miles, who was 5 meters tall, was standing in front of the clerk. Beside him were several famous demonic humans who just happened to surround the clerk. Chapter 681. Cast, Diana. Let's go first. Han Dong's plan was quite simple. He would ask the bodyguards to buy him some time. Han Dong returned to the town hall with the monastery's investigation log as fast as he could. He handed it directly to the mayor and applied for a virus test at the same time. Come to think of it, since Dry Town had been attacked by the laughing virus, there must be a corresponding vaccine or special method to detect it. As long as the mayor personally confirmed that they were not infected, the team would be treated as normal residents and continue to be protected by the law. But escape plan A could not be carried out. The spacious passage that was originally filled with flowing lava and ashes in the air. Now, it was completely covered by dense plant-like arms, completely turning into the scribe's territory. 50 meters away, Han Dong could see that the passage was quickly being sealed. Countless arms were holding each other's hands, blocking the passage layer by layer. There was no way out at all. It was impossible to tear apart the scribe's arms in a short period of time. Han Dong also found Cass and Diana hiding in the dark room next door through his magic eye and aura. He immediately sent a telepathic message. Cass, use the hybrid demon ability in your body. You should be able to penetrate the stone wall. The monastery's administrator is under Miles' control. No one will notice you leaving through the wall. The chance of winning this battle is very small. Even if everyone here works together, they won't be able to kill the scribe. After you leave the monastery, quickly find Miss Jane and tell her about my situation. If necessary, say that I'm willing to owe her a favor. Diana, go to the neighborhood committee and find Sam. The new shell should be completed. Report the situation here truthfully. Cass was very decisive and did not stay for a moment. He immediately adjusted the hybrid demon ability in his body and combined it with the stone wall. He led Diana slowly through the monastery's stone wall and quickly left. We're out. Just as Cass and Diana left the last stone wall, they appeared in the depths of the cliff at the edge of Dry Town. The monastery's main building was about 800 meters above the ground. When they left the stone wall and fell down, Cass's 10 fingers were all petrified. He forcefully inserted them into the steep cliff and climbed up. Diana used the bone spurs in her palms as climbing tools and climbed up with him. The seam between the cliffs made Cass's scalp tingle. Between the cliffs, using any protruding rocks as support, tens of thousands of nuns were hanging. They had all gone deep into the backyard and were hanged on the cliff because they were suspected of being infected with the virus. This was to prevent the virus from entering the town. Ha! A strange laughter echoed between the cliffs. Perhaps there were indeed some nuns who had died unjustly, but since the town hall was able to maintain a stable town, the decisions made must have a basis. The laughter virus was indeed very easy to spread and was extremely harmful. The scribes had the attitude of killing anyone who was suspected of being infected, especially Han Dong, who had close contact with the clown in the surface world. This was one of the reasons why the clerk wanted to kill Han Dong. At least 70% of the nuns hanging from the cliff were infected with the virus. Sensing the presence of a living person, the nun whose body had not completely decayed let out a strange laugh. Asterisk whoosh whoosh whoosh. Asterisk several grasshopper legs grew out of her body and attacked the two who were climbing the rock. Even if the hemp rope that hung the nun was cut, they could still climb up the rocks with their long legs induced by the virus. This is going to take a long time. Nicholas, you have to hold on. Demi, they belonged to a large group of residents in Dry Town. They were different from other attributes such as ghosts, monsters, mutants, and so on. The characteristics of Demi were very simple. That was, they were extremely strong in single combat. In the face of this group of strong Demi who brought great pressure to individuals, even the scribes frowned, especially Miles, who had just been promoted to the 10th demon. His individual strength had further improved. Of course, even if the 4 strongest Demi in Dry Town were to be her enemies, the scribes had no fear at all. Moonlight, Miles, Undying Demon, Jason, Leatherface, Tommy, and Nightmare, Freddy. What are you doing here? This is the forbidden area of Dry Town. In the face of the scribes' questions, among the 4 Demi, Freddy the Nightmare, who was smaller in size, was immediately terrified. Miss Scribes, why are you here? Today is our monthly Demi party. We're having a lot of fun, and we heard a big commotion in the monastery, so we came over to have a look. This is not a place for you imbeciles to play. You violated the first level of Dry Town's prohibition. All of you are listed as suspected virus infected. All of you, stay in the room and wait for your punishment. Since they had not caught Han Dong for a long time, and Clown's torso was missing, the moody scribes instantly became extremely irritable and directly expressed her opinion of this group of Demi. One had to know. These 4 people were the ultimate Demi who had completed the 10,000 slaughter in their own small worlds. They had been recognized and promoted by the mayor. Living in Dry Town was just to make life more interesting, to reach a higher level, and to obtain greater power. They did not want to be belittled like this. The reason why they live in the small town was that the mayor valued them and gave them the opportunity to be promoted. It was not because of the scribes' power and suppression. Swoosh. Just as Freddy tried to drag the scribes into the dream world to buy some time so that everyone could leave temporarily, the blade flashed. The devil's table knife in Miles's hand cut horizontally into the scribe's neck. Miles, who was in the state of devil's possession, had a strength of S-. Coupled with his own precious artifact, he did not manage to cut off the scribe's head. He only cut halfway. If one observed carefully, they would discover the mystery behind it. Between the flesh of the scribe's neck, there were blood-red little hands that were the size of ants. They were densely packed and wriggling between the layers of skin to catch the blade steadily. At the same time, the moonlight mark was also ineffective for some reason. It was also during the time when the 4 Demi were in conflict with the scribes. Han Dong had already sneaked into the side compartment. At the same time, Han Dong was holding the seriously injured ghost nun Walaka, who had just been slashed twice by Miles. He did not give her any time to react. A 100-eyed bloodhound that was bigger than usual was formed. The hound's head leaped high, and from top to bottom, it completely swallowed the ghost nun in one bite, not giving her any time to react. A syringe was inserted into the chewed-up body. Cell essence quality has been collected and used for the research of the Void Laboratory. Tentacle development Void. Chapter 682. The scene switched to the tunnel. The four demonic humans who had long been unhappy with the clerk launched a joint attack again after the calamity descends 3 years ago. Myers failed to cut off the clerk's head with one strike. Jason, who was equally tall, stood behind the clerk. Asterisk smack. Asterisk he grabbed the clerk's head with both hands and twisted it off forcefully. Then, he threw the head to Leatherface, who was holding a chainsaw high up. Asterisk sizzle. Asterisk Leatherface's noble artifact, the magic saw, could directly cut through living cells when injected with meat oil, causing devastating damage to the body. The clerk's head that was cut off immediately turned into ashes. However, the arms that filled the tunnel were still swaying strangely, attacking all the demonic humans in the tunnel like a tide. They were paralyzed upon contact. The demonic humans became sluggish. They were quickly submerged in the waves of arms and were eaten up by the mouths between the palms. They were all turned into fertilizer for the growth of the arms. The body of the scribe was soon reformed. Weak demonic humans. The mayor actually promoted such trash to the position of one of the 10 demons. It seems that the overall quality of Dry Town's residents needs to be improved. Our town must reach the standard of a high-tier destiny in the next 10 years. Just as the clerk was about to go to the cubicle to look for Han Dong, a song was heard. A golden-haired little girl who was playing with a skipping rope appeared in the tunnel at some point in time. The strange song echoed in the tunnel. 1-2 Freddy Scaman for you. 3-4 Better Lockyordoor. 5-6 Grappior Crucifix. 7-8 Gonna Stay a Plate. 9-1-0 Never Sleep Again. For a moment, the arms that originally belonged to the clerk all turned into Freddy's steel claws, attacking the clerk together. After all, Freddy had already achieved the title of King of Nightmares in the small world of a nightmare street. Half of the people in the country were afraid of Freddy, and this fear would continuously provide him with powerful dream force. La la la, faced with such a situation, the clerk simply sang. The first iron claw that touched her dissipated immediately. Then, all the iron claws disintegrated along with the dream force. Wake up! The dream force was instantly broken. Freddy, who was the furthest away in using dream force, was so frightened that he took 3 steps back. His burnt face was actually dripping with sweat. Although Freddy was well aware of how powerful the clerk was, he hadn't expected that his dream wouldn't be able to cause any harm to the clerk. Freddy, who had absorbed the fear of others, actually felt fear at this moment. I'm Freddy the Ghost King. Freddy stopped backing away. Since the dream couldn't hurt the scribe, he still had one more trick up his sleeve. Freddy, who had become the King of Nightmares, could directly apply the dream effect on the target as long as the target was within 20 meters of him, regardless of whether the target was asleep. At the same time, he entered the dreams of his 3 demonic human companions. Dream enhancement. Through the suggestion of the dream, the individual's potential will be stimulated and 120% of the standard will be exerted. But even so, it was still somewhat difficult. If he could not solve the problem of his hand, he would not be able to kill the scribe no matter what. He would not even be able to cause the most basic injury. Clang! The combined attack of 100 hands hit Miles. It directly smashed through the iron door of the dark room where Han Dong was, and his body rolled several times on the ground. This palm strike broke 4 of Miles's ribs, who had a body as hard as steel. Even a few tiny baby arms grew out of the places where he was hit. Swish! The growing arms were cut off with one slash. Miles glanced at Boss Han, who was still meditating, and continued to fight. Less than a minute later, Miles was hit hard again and slammed into the wall of the room, forming a human-shaped dent. The leather mask on his face was also damaged a lot. Even with the drive of the demon engine and the regular delivery of energy by the bulging black blood vessels all over his body, Miles still knelt on one knee. Fighting in such a confined space without bathing in the moonlight, his self-healing ability was not effective. Just as Miles rested and was about to get up, whoosh! Suddenly, 10 slender arms shot in from outside the door. At a glance, the palms were like snake heads, and the sharp nails broke through Miles's defense and pierced into his body. Squeak! Squeak! The fingers that pierced into his body continued to grow out small red ant-like hands and continued to destroy his body. At the same time, two soft, boneless arms quickly wrapped around Miles's left and right arms, making him unable to wield the table knife. Drip! 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 Drops of black demon blood flowed on the ground. Unable to escape, his HP was rapidly decreasing. In the passage, Jason and Leatherface were also fighting with the other arms and had no time to care about this. There was no way out. Another arm reached into the room and grabbed Miles's white leather mask. Once the mask was destroyed, Miles would be in real danger. Even if Miles died, the clerk had a reason to explain it as a justifiable homicide, and he would not be held responsible at all. At the critical moment, a dark purple gas suddenly appeared in the corner of the room. A void aura spread out. It made Miles's eyes widen and the arm freeze. Swish! There was no expansion or contraction at all. A void blood dog appeared directly in front of the arm and bit off all the arms connected to Miles's body. The corrosive nature of the void caused the arm to die quickly. A huge black, triangular mark appeared on the wall of the dark room. Ah? A cry also came from outside the door. It seemed that the void nibbling had caused some damage to the clerk. Richard, the clerk's original body, standing in the passage, looked at the dark room that emitted a dark purple light. Her face was filled with doubt and a little fear, although the clerk's ranking was extremely high. In her mind, there were still very few residents in Dry Town who could endanger her life. One of them was Dean Richard, who was the closest to God. When she heard the news of Richard's death, she was quite happy in her heart. As the dark purple light gradually faded, a young man walked out of the dark room. On the young man's left shoulder was a dog's head that flowed with the color of the void, exuding the same aura as the central hospital. You? Why do you have Richard's power? Just as the clerk was puzzled and Han Dong was about to lead the 4 demonic humans to fight against the clerk. In the secret room, used to store the clown's torso, high-temperature hell lava suddenly overflowed. The lava flow on the ground was activated again and melted a large number of arms. A bald head with a saw embedded in it, a black monk's tights, and iron chains around it. Togo had completed his rehabilitation training in the Hell Monastery. When he sensed that his master was in danger, he returned in advance. A number was slowly printed on the back of his bald head. The original supervisor of the monastery in Dry Town had officially returned. Chapter 683. She stared at Togo, who had reappeared from hell and was given the identity of a resident and the right to manage the monastery. The clerk showed a dissatisfied and ferocious expression. The clerk was quite dissatisfied that this kind of loser who was enslaved by an outsider could return to the identity of a resident and continue to be the 8th demon and the monastery supervisor. Han Dong's little magic, I also found the area where the arm's main body was during this period and was ready to fight to the death with the clerk. The situation changed from 4 against 1 to 6 against 1. The confrontation was about to break out again. Everything in the passage dimmed, including the lava flowing in the passage. Seeing this situation, the clerk immediately responded. She retracted all the arms scattered in the passage and bowed her head respectfully. Even if she was attacked by 6 big men, she didn't have the slightest intention to fight, just because the person she respected and admired the most was here. At the same time, the 4 demonic humans who were full of murderous intent immediately suppressed their mania and bowed their heads respectfully. Mayor, there was a burst of sound of hard, leather shoes stepping on the ground in the passage. A man with only a black silhouette and no light was walking slowly. Funa, you go back first. I asked Nicholas to come to the monastery to investigate the situation. He seems to have gotten the answer. Mayor, they violated the ban of Dry Town. I will personally check whether they are infected with the virus. If they're not, then it's fine. After all, I asked them to come here. If it's a violation of the ban, I should be included. As soon as the words came out, Funa's face became extremely gloomy. Mayor, I'll go back first. Well, When the matter is settled, I'll come to talk to you alone." When she heard the word alone, the depressed clerk immediately became excited. A large number of soft arms swayed under her skirt. Obviously, she couldn't suppress the excitement in her heart. "Okay, then I'll go back first." La la la, the scribe left in a rapid panning motion. The realization of the translation was through the red flesh palm that grew on the sole of her foot. It was only the size of an ant and carried the clerk quickly. With the departure of the clerk, the pressure on everyone also dissipated. In fact, even if Han Dong temporarily added the void attribute to the tentacles, it would still be impossible. Even if Tugu completely recovered his strength and returned to being the 8th demon, even if the 4 most powerful demi-demons in Draytown were on his side under the situation of 6 against 1, the odds of winning were still 50-50. It was naturally the best-case scenario that the mayor could come. Or it could be said that the mayor knew what was going on here from the very beginning. He was just waiting for the right time to appear. "Miles, your party isn't over yet, right? If we go back now, we should be able to make it in time." The 4 demonic humans naturally understood the mayor's meaning. In a situation where all of them were heavily injured, they supported each other and left the monastery. Such a scene was not commonly seen. The mayor looked at the man who had just returned from hell. "Togu, how does it feel to regain your memories, regain your strength and control over the region?" Togu waited. His bright black eyes were playing with the infernal Rubik's Cube that he had picked up again. He answered with certainty, "It's very comfortable. The life in the monastery suits me very well." The mayor asked, "Then, are you willing to stay here, continue to manage the monastery, and continue to improve yourself to help me bring Draytown to a higher level? Or do you still want to leave with this young man? If you choose the former, I have a way to cut off the master-servant relationship hidden in the mezzanine. Or I can replace you with a resident from Nicholas. I believe that Nicholas won't force you to follow him." It was a crucial question. Originally, Togu, who had regained his memories, held great power in Draytown, had a large number of nuns accompanying him, and could go to the monastery in hell at any time to improve himself, might fall into a period of contemplation. Who knew that Togu did not hesitate at all? "Mayor, please allow me to continue to follow Master." The mayor was not angry at such an answer. Instead, he showed a very appreciative expression. Loyalty was an important quality that the mayor valued Togu in the beginning. "I respect your choice, but I have a condition. During this special period of time, you need to continue to be in charge of the monastery's management. You are not allowed to have any problems here, and you're not allowed to leave the monastery even half a step. As for Nicholas' problem, let him solve it himself." Yes, the mayor suddenly thought of something else. "All right, Togu, do you have any way of persuading another monk to take your place?" "Mayor, I've just asked in the Hell Monastery, and Miss Hallies is interested in talking to you about the world shift issue. If the conditions are satisfactory to her, she is willing to replace me as the monastery's manager and work for you, Mayor. Although Miss Hallies became a Hell monk after me, she is more proficient in the creation of servants and is more suitable for the monastery's management." Okay, since the matter was settled, the mayor waved his hand. The lightless domain directly enveloped Han Dong. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to the familiar dean's office. Han Dong's report on the monastery's investigation was placed on the desk. At the same time, he explained the whereabouts of the clown's body and Han Dong's thoughts. "I hope you can trust me. I can help Draytown get rid of the clown and prevent disasters from happening again." The mayor seemed to already have an answer in his heart. "Yes, I will give both of you a chance, but if you can't handle it properly, I will take back the chance." The other group of young people seems to be quite capable as well. Han Dong knew full well that the other group the mayor was referring to was the Dragon City team. Since they were able to kill the clown in the report, they were naturally qualified to be valued by the mayor. Besides, Hui Zipping and the others had completed the main storyline from the very beginning, which was related to the town hall. The mayor gave Seiji a special medal. "From now on, you're a detective appointed by the town hall to investigate Pennywise the clown. You are not restricted by the rules, and you may directly come into contact with the clown's body parts. However, me, the clerk, and the various departments in charge of managing the clown's body parts will evaluate your status and actions during this process. Once you exceed a certain bottom line, your authority will be revoked. Understood. At the same time, the title of detective is limited to you. It does not include your two companions. You'll have to figure out how to conduct the investigation yourself. Thank you, Mayor. Exclusive storyline. Mayor, investigation of the monastery completed. Investigation progress. 95%. Excellent. Reward. 1 job. You'll be a detective specially appointed by the town hall. You'll be able to access forbidden areas and increase the probability of collecting key clues. Chapter 684. They successfully completed the investigation of the monastery without any mishap. Han Dong was recognized by the mayor because his personal account was managed by the town hall and the valuable information provided by this investigation. He obtained the unique identity of detective, which made it convenient for Han Dong to access the restricted areas where the clown's body was stored. But there was one thing that was regrettable. Although Togu had recovered, he could only stay in the monastery before Han Dong completed his destiny. While Han Dong spent 3 days in the mystic sect, he suddenly realized something. Hua Zipping and his team received information from Mary Shaw. They called the 4 members of the team to go to the suburb at the other end of Dry Town, Crystal Lake, to look for the clown's left leg. Although Jason, the immortal demon, who had been staying at the Crystal Lake for a long time, was not here because of the human demon party, there was an alien spaceship that fell into Dry Town hundreds of years ago at the bottom of the Crystal Lake. As for the secret room, it was in a compartment deep in the giant spaceship. In the huge spaceship, there were 2 alien species. One was the Predator, who controlled the spaceship's technology, and the other was the aliens cultivated by the Predator in the experimental field. They were also the aliens' nemesis. A large amount of green viscous liquid stained the spaceship. In the team, Gong Sun Hao, who was the strongest, was in the lead. Because the Predator was killed, most of the cabins were destroyed, and the aliens took the opportunity to escape. Their super reproductive ability allowed them to complete a large number of reproduction in a short period of time. The total number of aliens in the spaceship exceeded 100. Facing the 3 aliens that crawled from the left and right walls and ceiling at the same time, Gong Sun Hao, who was full of fighting spirit, smiled and tidied his hair with his left hand. He was quite relaxed. When the aliens were 3 meters away, he stretched out his right hand. He slowly clenched his fist and pulled it back. This action directly formed a strong gravitational field at the position where he clenched his fist, achieving the effect of gathering monsters. It directly sucked the 3 crawling aliens in front of him. Lunging punch. Bang. The aliens whose shells were comparable to steel directly collapsed under Gong Sun Hao's punch. 3 kills in 1 punch. When Gong Sun Hao completed this perfect punch, he deliberately showed his handsome side profile to Ma Tao Dao behind him, trying to attract the attention of the goddess. But, just as Gong Sun Hao tilted his head to the side, Captain Hua Zipping, who was walking at the back, had just sheathed the sword when more than 10 xenomorphs that were chasing after him were all killed. Everyone, pay attention. This place should be guarded by the residents, but we don't know where they are right now. Captain, the room in front is a little strange. Following Gong Sun Hao's shout, everyone looked to the front. A door made out of biomass that had never been seen before appeared at the end of the passage. The edges of the door were similar to the tail of a xenomorph, and the body of the door was made out of alloy and flesh. Yu nodded. He seemed to have heard the laughter coming from inside through the door and the barrier. Beep, beep, beep. Unauthorized. Seeing that the staff here could not recognize the door, Hua Zipping could only take a deep breath. Chop! The crystal lake trembled violently, and a few seconds of spatial cracks appeared on the surface of the lake. A few seconds later, the lake water filled the gap, and a large number of bubbles rose. The door was forcefully slashed open. Among the outsiders, perhaps only Hua Zipping, who had an epic sword in his hand, could forcefully open the door of the secret room without the use of a key. His attack power was invincible. Inside the biological chamber, a 4-meter-tall xenomorph queen that was completely black and shiny was entrenched inside. A large number of facehugger insect eggs were neatly arranged inside. In the center of the hundreds of eggs, a plasma cutting platform was built with the most advanced technology controlled by the predators. The clown's left leg was placed inside. A smiling face formed on the sole of the foot, and a voice that was zipping was familiar with came out. "Brother Hua, you're here. Come quickly. Hurry up and kill me again." The camera cut to Dry Town Center Street. Han Dong had already reported to his teammates that he was safe and asked them to wait at the neighborhood committee. He would come back later to discuss the next plan. As for the whereabouts of the clown's body, Han Dong did not mention it. On the other end of the phone, Cass was also very confused. He and Diana had just rushed back to the neighborhood committee not long ago, and they had yet to ask for reinforcements. They had even just told Director Sam half of what happened at the monastery. Han Dong had already solved everything. However, Cass was already used to it. Han Dong, who had obtained the identity of detective, did not immediately return to the neighborhood committee. Instead, he slowly walked alone on Dry Town Center Street under the moonlight, preparing to try out his new ability. He also planned to go to the Demonic Humans party to thank Miles and the others for their help. After all, from a certain perspective, Han Dong had tricked the Demonic Humans. He only asked them to come to the monastery to help, but he did not tell them that the clerk was here. I was going to use the powerful Demonic Humans as a cover to try out the newly developed void tentacles on the clerk, who knew that the mayor would interrupt me in advance. What a pity. Han Dong walked on the empty Central Street. Normally, the residents would not come here for a stroll. After all, the main buildings of Dry Town were on the Central Street, and the interior was under the care of the 10 demons. There were many trees over 10 meters tall on the Central Street, as well as various large buildings. It was very suitable for Han Dong to practice his new ability. Go! Since he was familiar with the structure of the bloodhound, the tentacles still appeared in the form of a bloodhound and bit at a thick branch about 20 meters away. The moment he bit it, the tentacles that formed the hound's head emitted a light similar to the stars in the deep space. Void transfer. There was no traction process at all. Han Dong stood directly at the end of the branch and completed a pseudo-space transfer. Wow! All this time, Han Dong had been passively completing space transfer through the Gate of Destiny or some preset space array. At present, when he could achieve pseudo-space transfer through the tentacle conduction method, although it was not as good as a complete space transfer, Han Dong was still very excited. At this time, Count Consciousness also came out to join in the fun. Let me try. As the 100-eyed bloodhound extended infinitely, it bit a street lamp about 50 meters away. Whoosh! Han Dong's body was already half squatting at the end of the street lamp. As expected of the power from, why? It can achieve this pseudo-space transfer just by using the tentacles. Count was like a child who had gotten a new toy. He kept using this ability to carry Han Dong's body around. Okay, it's about time. Okay. Unknowingly, Han Dong had arrived at the area near the Central Hospital of Dry Town. Han Dong had just landed. The familiar sound of wheels rolling came from behind him, and at the same time, it brought an inexplicable chill. Under the night sky, a cold cart slowly rolled over, carrying a beautiful and flawless female corpse. Miss Jane. Han Dong habitually held Miss Jane's hand and established a consciousness connection. Why are you wandering here alone? I just came out of the town hall and was going to take a look at the Human Demon Party. There are some things I need to talk to Miles about. Human Demon Party, hee hee. It's a very interesting place. Can I go with you? Of course. Just like that, a man and a corpse, hand in hand, walked romantically on the main road of Dry Town under the moonlight. Sometimes they whispered, sometimes they smiled, and seemed very intimate. Chapter 685. Han Dong held the female corpse's fair hand and walked under the moonlight. Such a scene might seem out of place in real life, but it was absolutely normal in Ridley Town. Although Miss Jane did not want to ruin the beautiful atmosphere, if they did not talk about the main topic, Han Dong might be in danger. Did you come in contact with the clerk? Air. Yes. For some reason, Han Dong had a strange feeling. It was as if he was caught by his girlfriend talking to another girl on WeChat. You're new here, so you don't know how scary Reed Town is. When the clerk, Funa, took over 10 years ago, many people were dissatisfied with her. However, for the residents who were dissatisfied with her, among them, there was a powerful resident who was ranked 19th. All of them died on the second day. The room he lived in was filled with arms. The arms bloomed like flowers and filled the room. They even covered the front garden and the street. The starting point of these arms was the resident's body. Some grew out of the abdominal cavity. Some grew out of the mouth. However, the most beautiful and colorful flowers grew out of the brain. Everyone who came in contact with Fina would be like this. According to my autopsy, Funa's arms had a paralyzing ability that could reach the soul and suppress the individual's instincts. At the moment of death, the victim did not even know that they had bloomed. You mean Funa planted seeds in your body, but you did not feel it. However, the amount of seeds planted was very small. Your body might be able to withstand it, but it might also be possible for the whole house to bloom after a night's sleep. Han Dong quickly recalled his experience in the monastery. He also paid attention to the clerk's hands. He could clearly sense the danger from the arms. Therefore, he tried his best to avoid contact with the arms. When he walked in the tunnel full of arms, Han Dong also let the sand cover his steps. It was then, just as Han Dong met with the scribe, 10 arms came at him in a flash. When they crossed the highly concentrated death domain, the 9 arms quickly disintegrated. Only one of them reached in and disintegrated when it came into contact with a strand of Han Dong's hair. Her hair was still a part of her body, so she had touched it. With Miss Jane's reminder, Han Dong immediately activated the G-virus and allowed his right arm to grow an arm that could move on its own. It carried an eye and looked at the hair at the back of his head that the clerk had touched, as expected. Through the magnification effect with the naked eye, an extremely small red object could be seen slowly wriggling between the layers of hair with the assistance of the demonic eye. Zhang Xian continued to magnify his field of vision. Only then did he manage to see clearly. His hair was covered with densely packed little red hands. Their sizes were between nanometers and microns, and they had already affected more than 100 strands of hair. Currently, he had successfully paralyzed the hair follicle and was trying to slowly drill into the scalp and skull. In at most 2 hours, it would enter the brain region. The young miss was right. If Han Dong hadn't noticed this, he would have slept through the night, and the flowers would have bloomed the next day. Of course, Han Dong's mind was extraordinary, and he might have noticed it in advance. Death spread. Han Dong immediately used the dense death aura to cover his head and kill all the little red hands. At the same time, he carried out a thorough examination of every corner of his body. Okay, it's clean. I can feel it, Miss Jane reminded him. Thank you, Miss Jane. Han Dong really felt his scalp tingle. The clerk is in existence with a very extreme personality. She is willing to do everything to protect the town and the townspeople protected by the law in the town. She will also use all her abilities to kill people who violate the law or are potential threats to the town. Since she has her eyes on you, she will not stop until you are dead or completely leave the town. Be careful. She is completely different from Director Richard. Okay, speaking of which, Miss Jane, do you have any information about the clerk? Yes, but you have to promise me one thing. Say, Han Dong was currently moving toward the perfect ending and did not want to waste too much time midway. There's still 6 hours left tonight. After you go to the party, can you accompany me for the rest of the time? I haven't treated my body for a long time, and I need someone to help. 6 hours was within the scope of the plan. As for what to do, it was all for the sake of the plan's smooth progress. Naturally, he could not refuse. Okay, when we return to the morgue later, I will give you the information. You must keep this a secret, or the clerk will also come to trouble me. In this way, the two of them walked in a shady path. Wherever Miss Yiling went, all the residents would retreat, not even daring to take a second look at her. The so-called human and demon party was held in the hidden underground area of Palm Street. By the time Han Dong found the entrance, there were already piles of fresh arms in the underground tunnel. At the same time, there was a cleaner who kept sweeping out the newly amputated arms. When the pile reached a certain number, he lit a fire to burn these arms. While burning, the arms would still struggle madly and make a burst of lifelike screams. It was very creepy. Miss Jane immediately realized that something was not right. It's the clerk again. Something happened to this group of human demons? Be honest, what did you do tonight? Han Dong wanted to hide it, but now he had to tell the truth. He did not expect that the human and demon party had already started here. When she heard what happened in the monastery and how Han Dong was given the special job of a detective by the mayor, Miss Jane was silent for a while. You really dared to scheme against Funa. Even if Togu returns, even if it's 6 against 1, the death rate is still very high. Don't do such stupid things in the future. You don't even know to tell me. Miss Jane's last sentence was very soft, as if she was hinting that Han Dong could go to her for help if he was in a desperate situation. Okay, when they arrived at the entrance of the underground party, the scene inside was very explosive. Leatherface was using a destructive electric saw to remove the arms that were constantly growing on the surface of his companions' bodies. The number was so large that it made the whole basement look like it was blooming. After all, the 4 human demons had been fighting with the clerk for more than half an hour. Every corner of their bodies had been seeded. When Han Dong arrived, he immediately took out the raven staff to increase the power of death. The dense black sand of death covered the entire party and helped to remove all the arm seeds. Han Dong also cleaned his scalp in the end. More or less, psychological shadows were produced in the hearts of the people who had been seeded. Intelligence -1. Chapter 686. Han Dong helped clean up the clerk's arm. The demonic humans gradually quieted down. However, there seemed to be one less demonic human who had taken a blow for Han Dong in the monastery. Jason, the undying demon whom Han Dong had seen in the movie Friday the 13th, seemed to have dealt with the arm in advance and had already left. When he expressed his gratitude to Miles, the latter made a one-to-one gesture with his finger, indicating that the favor he owed Han Dong had been canceled out. Perhaps it was because of Miss Jane, but the entire party was unusually quiet. Everyone seemed to be afraid of this immobile and speechless female corpse. The stench in the air had also completely dissipated due to Miss Jane's arrival. The entire underground area became as clean as an autopsy room, completely disrupting the atmosphere of the demonic humans party. Considering that Miss Jane had seriously affected the party's atmosphere, Han Dong immediately pushed the cart away after saying goodbye to Miles and the others. At the same time, he called Cass and Roland, indicating that he still had some things to deal with. He told them to go to bed early tonight and discuss the next step tomorrow. Everything was ready. Han Dong pushed the cart back to the familiar central hospital. Before entering, Han Dong first asked, "What's the matter?" "Miss Jane, I heard that the hospital has been handed over to Director Richard's daughter, Shirley, to manage. What's her current situation? Shall we go in directly?" When it came to relationships, Han Dong could be considered Shirley's enemy, who killed her father. Even if the two of them had a good relationship before, once it involved the murder of her father, they would inevitably become enemies. Don't worry, little sister Shirley likes you very much. Moreover, Director Richard isn't completely dead. The last color you brought to Shirley contains a wisp of her father's consciousness. As a result, Shirley can see her father by her side at all times, managing the hospital together. Is that so? As soon as Han Dong stepped into the hospital's entrance, 2 white silk legs directly straddled Han Dong's waist, and the blonde lowly took the initiative to throw herself into his arms. She seemed to have sensed Han Dong's arrival in advance and had been waiting at the door for a long time. "Little brother Scarecrow." Han Dong laughed awkwardly. Considering that Miss Jane was right next to her, Shirley didn't hug him for too long and slowly let go of him. Shweli still maintained the appearance of a 12-year-old, but due to the infusion of colors, her eyes shone with rainbow colors, and there was a complete void mark imprinted on her forehead. Due to the injection of this strand of color, Dean Richards' final goal of pursuing the void had been achieved. In other words, his daughter's perfect resurrection. Shirley's consciousness, soul, and body were all in an absolutely stable state. Big Sister Jian seems to be looking for you, right? Then I won't bother you anymore. If there's anything, Brother Scarecrow can come to the office to find me at any time. Dad, let's go. When Shirley reached out her hand, a small part of the color in her eyes separated and outlined the outline of President Richard in the air. They returned to the office together. When Han Dong stared at this figure, he paused for a moment. Then, he turned his thoughts to business and pushed Miss Jane to the cold and dark morgue. The gatekeeper had been replaced by Miss Jane's subordinate, which meant that she was mainly responsible for the entire morgue. A bald female corpse was standing at the entrance of the morgue, staring blankly at the entrance. When Miss Jane arrived, the bald female corpse's neck made a cracking sound, and she quickly nodded 90 degrees up and down to show her respect. Room 13 is my office. We'll work there. Okay. As Han Dong pushed Miss Jane deeper into the morgue, he once again felt that there seemed to be something hidden in the deepest part of the morgue. As for what exactly it was, Han Dong had a guess in his heart. However, the thing in the deepest part of the morgue was arranged by Han Dong at the end of his plan as the most crucial step. Morgue 13. There was a layer of frost on the surface of the door. When Han Dong reached out to push it, he was immediately chilled. The chill was not the kind that could freeze one's body, but the kind that could make one's soul tremble. The familiar autopsy room appeared in front of Han Dong's eyes, but the previous conflict had disappeared. There's the information you want in the bottom drawer of the 10th row. Okay. Han Dong skillfully pried open Miss Jane's mouth and pulled out a key from her body using a thin thread. He then opened the drawer that was locked in a special way. Inside the drawer was everything about the clerk, from the simplest newspaper to the interview records of some people who had a conflict with the clerk, the autopsy results after death, and Miss Jane's personal analysis. However, because he was in the Destiny realm, the support system did not allow Han Dong to summarize the information by himself. Enough information about the clerk, Verna Rywald, has been collected, and the illustration information has been completed. The first page of the book was a detailed illustration of the clerk. Just the first picture made Han Dong very uncomfortable. Background wall and figure painting. With the dark town hall as the background, the clerk was standing in the front garden. Upon closer inspection, he found that all the backgrounds were composed of large and small hands, stone walls, flowers, and even clouds in the sky. Such a dense pattern made people uncomfortable. Creak, creak, just when Han Dong wanted to turn to the next page. The wheels of the cart moved back and forth. Nicholas, I need to clean my body every month. The dissection tools are next to me. Please be sure to clean my inner layer within 6 hours. Okay, Han Dong was an expert when it came to dissection. Miss Jane, what is this water? Han Dong pointed to a large bucket labeled cleaning and asked. Hydrogen peroxide, specially used for bathing. Considering the nature of Miss Jane, Han Dong silently accepted this setting. Although he used the 100% little magic eye to peek at Miss Jane's internal structure before, when he saw it with his own eyes, he was shocked by this perfect picture. The inner layer was drawn with a scroll representing Nordic witchcraft. Every inch of bone and every piece of organ was engraved with precise spell words, and no area in the body was wasted. Miss Jane herself was witchcraft. Han Dong used a cotton swab dipped in hydrogen peroxide to go through every gap and carefully clean the dirt in Miss Jane's body. These black dirt were not caused by saprotrophic. Han Dong speculated that it should be impurities produced by witchcraft. From time to time, he held Miss Jane's cold fingers and asked where else needed to be cleaned. If you put aside the dissection room and the special cleaning scene, this kind of scene was somewhat similar to a certain considerate boy who was carefully wiping his paralyzed girlfriend's body on the bed, and the two of them were inseparable. Chapter 687. After spending a full 5 hours, they finally cleaned Miss Yiling's body. Do I need to suture it? No. As long as you leave me for a while, it'll recover immediately. Han Dong closed his eyes for a minute before opening them again. The dissection room, which was messy due to the bath, returned to its original clean and tidy state. The female corpse that had been completely dissected also returned to its original state. I strongly recommend everyone to watch the movie Nameless Female Corpse. Fatty is already obsessed with female corpses. Thank you. It's so comfortable. Your intimacy level with Procurator Jane Doyle has increased. Miss Jane's voice that echoed in Han Dong's mind was low and gentle, as if she had never taken such a comfortable bath before. In fact, Han Dong had many motives for taking such a careful bath. First, he wanted to work seriously for Miss Jane and continue to increase their intimacy level so that he could seek help from Miss Jane at critical moments. Second, by taking such a serious and slow bath, Han Dong could imprint all the drawings and words drawn on Miss Jane's body in his mind as much as possible. When he returned, he could bring this series of ancient witchcraft to Mia, who had the same attribute. Perhaps it would be of special help to this little spider. Han Dong was not thinking about the pot while eating from the bowl. After all, fate and reality were separated. Miss Jane had her own considerations and could not leave, and Han Dong could not force her. Miss Jane, I'll go to the morgue in front to analyze the clerk's information. Don't. I estimate that you'll leave Dry Town soon. Stay here with me tonight. You can go to the workbench over there to look at the information. I can watch over you too. Her words were very ambiguous. It was obvious that she had taken a liking to Han Dong. Or perhaps it was Miss Jane's first time meeting such an interesting man who did not resist or reject her and could really open his heart to her. Well, I can ask you if there's anything I don't understand. Leaving Miss Jane lying on the dissection table, Han Dong could not wait to go to the workbench and look at the information about the clerk. The information he would see would determine the highest difficulty of the inner chapter to a certain extent. Collected resident information. Chaotic program. Verna Rywald. Just as he opened the illustration handbook that recorded the clerk's information, BZZT, BZZT, the light during the dissection flickered slightly, and the air became slightly colder. He did not know if it was because of Miss Jane's actions or because of the environmental effect of reading such words. Type, demon, mutated, basic information, female, height 193 centimeters, weight 80 kilograms, religion, unknown, birthplace, LA town, founded by the STEM researcher of evil spirit, current residents. Ridley Town Hall, Dry Town, physique monitoring report, frowny face, strength, C, durability, S, magic power, S, agility, B, divinity, introduction. Verna Rywald was not originally a real human. She was born in a systematized world called the STEM Mastermind. The world of the STEM Mastermind was extremely twisted and cruel. Any subject that entered and connected to it would develop certain inner demons during the mental journey. The subject would then be transferred to a safe area called LA to Town, also a district of the STEM Mastermind, to relax, relieve pressure, and eliminate the inner demons. However, with the release of such mental pressure, LA to Town, which originally belonged to the mental and digitized world, gathered the negative mental pressure, inner demon data, released by the subjects in every corner of the town in a way that was beyond the control of the programmer. It slowly changed the atmosphere of LA to Town. The residents here were set to be completely friendly. Finally, one day, a housewife named Funa accidentally cut her arm while she was singing and chopping vegetables. This allowed the negative spirit, inner demon's data, in her house to infiltrate her arm in the form of data intrusion. Overnight, Verna's arm could not be controlled and killed her beloved husband and 2 beautiful and cute twin sons. This Ms. Verna's negative emotions also skyrocketed because of this. For a short time, she broke free from the basic character setting of completely friendly. She gathered the data of the inner demons released by all the subjects in Helu Town in her arm and strangled herself to death. She turned into a devil that was not controlled by the STEM system. She turned LA to town, which was set as a safe area, into her backyard. In order to prevent the system from being interrupted, she killed all the subjects who came to LA to rest and absorbed all the inner demon data released by them during their deaths. In the end, she even completely invaded all the terminals of the STEM system. She used external controllers to completely transfer data and real human bodies, and turned them into entities to come to the real world. In the end, due to her special nature, she was recruited by the mayor and promoted to Draytown. In other words, Verna's original body was just data typed out by the computer. From data to reality, she achieved a self-promotion. Even if Verna was placed in the entire fate system, she was still a unique existence. Special ability, digitization. Plus, Verna was born from data. In her eyes, she was also a functional individual composed of cell data. Therefore, Verna could directly create a digitization effect on other individuals through contact. She could integrate her own program into other individuals and achieve a for loop. The program that belonged to Verna's body was continuously replicated and overwritten on other individuals until the program framework of other individuals completely collapsed. Once Verna touched the data, the digitization process would be carried out. It couldn't be resisted. The speed of the program execution was fast or slow, and there might be an incubation period until it was completely eliminated. Infinite hand. S+, the first program disorder was the hand. Due to the strange mixture of the inner demon data and the NPC program, a unique data body was formed under the highly liberal STEM system, the infinite hand. When Verna achieved the perfect transformation of data into humans, the infinite hand also successfully interfered with the laws of nature. Verna's arm could carry out a self-nesting cycle. To a certain extent, it would not be bound by the law of conservation of energy to achieve the effect of infinite replication. It would still cause changes in entropy. Wherever it went, the arm could cover without limit and turn everything into its own territory. The hand is infinite. The infinite is the world. The world is eternal. Singing. Verna used singing to make the program and her body interact in a normal and orderly way and to greatly reduce the influence of external mental attacks. Inherent equipment cannot be dropped, can only be possessed by the corresponding residents. Frowny face STEM mainframe, grade. A type. Military item distance. 1x, the distance that the infinite hand can reach. When Verna achieved the transformation, she obtained the mainframe from the STEM director. Through data replication, the terrifying life in the mainframe could be replicated into reality for a period of time. Comprehensive resident ranking. Number 2, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.